All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode Hash Church 126. Thought last week was the last one. Got a little frustrated. We had the chat being run over at Todd McCormick's place with the 300 megabits per second internet connection. And of course, it still went down. We still had problems. So I apologize for that. I am going to send out the link here right away to our wonderful panelists. So let me just do that real quick. We'll send it off via YouTube, via email, via Skype, and all the other methods that we do this to. So boom, there goes one. And here goes another one out to these guys. And let's see what else we got. I think there's even a Skype one that I'm supposed to do over here to Mr. Chimera, see if he wants to come in and join us. And I think that's it. I think I got the invitations out to everyone. We got 292 people in the room watching. Welcome, Etienne.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, you tell me. Am I frozen? Am I?
Nope. Clear as a bell.
All right. Well, I figured it out, dude. I figured it out. I have this really strange, welcome, by the way, Johnny B, into the room. I have this strange internet thing where I had it set up by a friend who's kind of like one of these computer savants, and he set up a modem, but then he set up a router as well. And so I have this dual thing going on, and I guess the router was plugged into one of the sub plugs in the modem, meaning not the actual LAN plug that it should be plugged into. So I was getting like 3 megabits per second, and I plugged it in, and now I'm getting like 26 to 28. So
woohoo!
I think we're good.
All right. Not a blip, not any issue in any way, shape, or form, sir.
Oh, that's so wonderful. You can't even believe how happy I am to hear that, Etienne, like for real.
Well, me as well, you know, because I've had to endure this for the past couple of weeks of all the craziness. So it's good to finally see stability and have stability. Good morning, Mr. McCormick.
Right?
No stability. There's no stability. What the hell are you talking about?
Oh, dude. Welcome, Todd.
Good morning, guys. Very good morning. Nice to see and actually hear you, Mark, though, as Etienne was saying.
Yeah, I still feel like at any second it could go wrong, but I've got my fingers crossed. I think it's gonna work out. So
I was burning hash out the gate to make sure we send the proper amount of smoke toward the Vatican to make sure our connection stays clear.
Beautiful. Well,
faith is all we need, Etienne. That's right. Faith is all we need.
I sent the link out to a schwack of people today. Just pushed it out to, like Jeff Church and MC West. And I sent it to a whole schwack of people that I haven't been sending it to every week just to see if we get some new folks in the meantime. I love the core group representing at 9:02. All here. Johnny's probably having difficulties because we still haven't seen him.
I just laughed that you messaged me at 8 a.m. I like 7:59, too early for a stone at 8 a.m. Totally okay.
That's what I figured.
My alarm went off and I heard my phone go ding. And I'm like, oh, that's gotta be Mark.
It's like, Todd's up now. He's up. I know he's up. Well, I want to give a huge shout out to my good brother, Concentrated X. Concentrated X has sent the absolute fire. This is some strawberry banana from DNA that is seriously some of the tastiest hash I've ever had in my life. He also sent me some packs of the rosin. Let's check it out, shall we? It's always good to check out the flavors. Let's see what we got. Bubble hash rosin from Concentrated X. Bubble hash. Oh, flower, bubble hash, man. That's a nice little kick down right there. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you, Concentrated X, right there. It's gonna definitely.
That's sweet, dude.
Yeah. Well, he also sent me some flour that I haven't opened yet to see his actual pics of the flour. He sent me some 6-star bubble hash that is absolutely, seriously 6-star bubble hash. It just disappears to nothing. I've been dunking it. I haven't even been putting it on a dabber. I just crack it, dunk it, and puff it. And so I have to give him a shout out. I don't know if he sells this on the market. I think you can get it at Sunrise Wellness Foundation in Vancouver, But that's about it. Otherwise, go check out Concentrated X on Instagram. And this is actually from Exotic Genetics too. The cultivar is Cookies and Cream, the classic one that Cuban and Exotic popularized and help the world learn about. Gotta check out the bud. Man, he's using the good plastic. This is not easy to open, I'll tell you guys right now. It's the good stuff.
So I got the latest IACM bulletin if you want to hear some of the latest.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Welcome, Mark Scaldone, to the room.
Welcome, Doc. All right. Well, top it off is Science in Humans with cannabis improves survival of patients with aggressive brain cancer and control clinical studies. And then right below that, cannabis may be helpful in treatment of ADHD according to a small clinical trial. Now, what I'm reading from people is the IACM Bulletin, which is the International Association of Cannabinoid Medicines. I've spoke about them before, but if you're interested, they do have a, you can join as well as you can get the email list. But these are direct links to all these studies. Below that, we've got Sweden with the first patient gets approval to use cannabis for medicinal purposes. That's a big, that's a first for that country. Ireland, of course, government report proposes legalization of cannabis for medicinal use. So go Ireland. In Science in Humans, THC showed mixed results in the treatment of pain and spasticity and multiple sclerosis. This we've known, but getting more studies out there, especially because we've had problems with it earlier on with the Multiple Sclerosis Society and things like that. Wanting to see more studies. So this is a study out of the Netherlands, so that should be helpful. Peru, the government proposes to legalize the medicinal use of cannabis as well. Israel takes a step forward to allowing the export of medical cannabis.
Damn.
Canada is working on that as well, right? You guys can now export to a couple of other countries.
Yes, actually, I think it's more than a couple. I think Tweed and Tilray, between the two of them, have maybe 6 or 7 countries on the export list right now, from Uruguay to Chile to New Zealand to Germany and maybe Holland.
Well, we don't have enough to supply ourselves, so are they importing? Would be the next question. Good morning,
They're
guys.
exporting. They're exporting, Johnny B. They've already exported material. I think it's just to start the relationship, like the same way you might for your medtainer business. Although you might not have enough medtainers to support the entire world, you're still going to go out there and try and sort of drum up the business, create the relationships. And yeah, they're definitely creating this export thing before they even have enough for Canada, which totally sucks, getting the cart ahead of the horse. But it's, what are you going to do, right? We got to move this forward like yesterday. So I want to welcome Chris Bennett into the room.
Welcome, Chris.
Hey, how's everybody doing, man?
Good.
Doing good, man. Nice to see you this morning.
Nice. Good to be all
Fantastic.
around, man. Lots happening in the cannabis world as usual.
Dude, I can't believe what Etienne just read off. Like it was just like, oh, and today in the cannabis news, we have, it is incredible to have watched cannabis. And you know, someone earlier said in the chat room, oh, look, the stock market's turning around for the first time in 20 years. We got to give it up to Donald Trump. No, we do not have to give it up to Donald Trump. We have to give it up to cannabis. Because I tell you, it seems like cannabis is what's inspiring our stock market these days, at least in part.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens down south federally. You know what I mean? He's hired all those anti-cannabis people, but then he's about money as well.
Yeah.
And Trump's a man with no peers. You know, I don't believe he's like being forced by anybody behind him. He's a man with no equals in his own mind. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so he could go either way. You know what I mean? No matter who he hires, he's going to say, this is what we're doing. And,
well, we're starting to get some inklings of that out of DC, and we're starting to hear of allowance of status quo. I don't have confirmation on this. I only have rumors from multiple people, and you know my rumors are usually pretty good.
Right.
So the rumors are starting to go in that direction. I can't confirm it, but from what we're hearing, the states are going to be allowed to do so, as well as you have to realize that Rohrabacher, as well as senator from Colorado, just also teamed up and started this week the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, which is huge down here. Sorry to go there, but I went there. But it is really rather exponential, because it's the first type of thing we've ever had in the United States government where we now have multiple states with legalization as well as medical cannabis, that their senators are now teaming together to protect our states across the board. They're actually have put forth legislation to protect proper medical states at a federal level. So very interesting to see that and to see what will transpire, but fingers are still crossed. We have, again, you saw that 77-minute press conference that happened this week. The man is absolutely all over the map. So we're kind of still strapped in here and wondering which way that wind is blowing, but starting to hear some good things, but at the same time, we're all fucking exhausted after 3 weeks.
Well, I'm sure the pharmaceutical lobby and the private prison lobby have all got his ears. You know what I mean? The private prison's chomping at the bit because all those immigrants will be in private prison. You know what I mean? The ones rounded up and arrested. But you know how they feel about legalization, man. It's like there's money to be made no matter what they do.
Well, we also saw police officers and sheriffs come out this week and say, look, we don't want to see an escalation of the drug war. And that is another swing in the direction, is that in the past, we've never seen these types of multiple concerted efforts. So it's, again, small ripples, but these ripples continue onward, and we'll see which way they go.
Start a war with the states. You know what I mean? Like, he's got so much crap on him already. The last thing he wants to do is start a huge war where in states where cannabis is hugely popular and people are making a living and paying taxes and all that type of stuff. So I think it's hopeful too.
And
Well,
even more importantly, you know, saving lives. You know, people like Colton Turner are able to move to Colorado to save his life.
But you also saw Coloradans get $1.6 billion in sales last year as well.
Well, because life saving is a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, it's a big deal to people.
And so are jobs, you know what I mean? Like, this is the greenest thing ever to happen. You know, so many industries ruin the world, ruin the environment and stuff like this. And done right, cannabis can be totally beneficial, and it's creating all these jobs. And we're right here at the birth of it. And everybody on here helped bring that about, you know?
Absolutely, dude. Well said. Well said. Well, it's nice to have you guys all.
New book out.
Tell us.
I've just got a chapter in it. It's called Cannabis and Spirituality, an Explorer's Guide to an Agent Plant Spirit Ally. I, of course, do the history of religion bit in it, but there's chapters on Ganja yoga and Ganja meditations and the biology of cannabis and spirituality and all sorts of cool stuff put out by a Vancouver author, Stephen Gray. He organizes the spirit plant medicine conferences.
Oh, that's Stephen's book. Okay, I meant to go to that release, and I was bummed that I didn't. I got the invite.
It was a nice event.
Awesome. Yeah. So what? Tell us a little bit more about the book, in the sense that you've got your chapter there, but also there's a whole variety of other.
Here, I'll read you off some of the chapter titles. Julie Holland, who did the pop book and wrote a book on ecstasy. Dr. Julie Holland, she does the foreword. There's chapters by Kathleen Harrison. That's Stephen McKenna's ex-wife.
Terrence, yeah.
The personification of cannabis and culture and individual experience. Joan Bello on marijuana and the body mind. Dee Dussault, who does the Ganja yoga in San Francisco, very well known for her work with that, has a chapter. Jeff Brown of the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church does a chapter on Ganja in Jamaica. Satyan Raja, a local martial artist and a life coach, does an article on sadhus in India and his experience with them smoking ganja. And stuff on the Santa Daime Church and their use of cannabis. Roger Christie, most people probably know Roger, has an article on his THC ministry, and Stephen Hager on the New Pot Enlightenment. So a lot of good chapters, lots of cool stuff in it.
Do we have updates?
There's a lot happening with cannabis spirituality right now. You know, there's another book coming out. I got a chapter in as well called One Toe Closer to God. And a lot of different well-known authors are in that as well. And it just seems like there's, you know, more like from the historical aspect, I think, rather than, well, Ganja yoga and stuff like that's pretty practical and stuff like that. And I think that's a really great combination that goes way back, and it's just kind of a natural relationship, you know?
Yeah, I definitely put it together not long into my Ashtanga yoga that I could smoke hash and make it Hashtanga yoga.
That's
And
right.
it was definitely interesting for me, especially. I use cannabis as a focal, to focus my attentions. I don't really get all sort of ethereal that often with it unless I eat a bunch and then smoke heroic doses of it. Otherwise, it's very focusing for me. So for the yoga, it was, rather than, distracting, it really allowed me to get into these postures and look at them from a different angle, breathe into them from a different perspective that I just for sure wouldn't have had I not just taken a big old rip of the full melt.
Hey man, I find it's a wonderful research tool. You know what I mean? I've been working on this book I'm working on now for a couple of years now, and it's like a head full of ganja, a room full of books, and Google Books on the internet, and everything's open. And I find that it really widens your grip of associations. So your associations, when you come across something, is you have way more connections made than you would otherwise without it. And that's something that Robert Anton Wilson and other people have written about as well.
Love Robert Anton Wilson. I was talking about him the other day at the dinner table in Whistler. And did you see him when he came to Vancouver in the 90s?
I didn't see him, but I did interview him.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not online anymore. But yeah, no, interesting stuff. I talked to him a bit. He read my book, Sex, Drugs, Violence, and the Bible, and he really liked it. And
Nice.
yeah, he gave me a little plug for it. And stuff was great.
That's pretty awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know, of course, Robert Anton Wilson, author of the Illuminatus trilogy, many other good books.
Cosmic Trigger is a good one, yeah.
Cosmic Trigger is, for me, the first one that I read before getting into the Illuminatus trilogy. When you first kind of see it, especially maybe because I was like a teenager, it was like my James Joyce Ulysses at the time. It was just this crazy, how will I read this? When I first started researching cannabis and stuff, right? You know what I mean? I came across the Founding Fathers hemp quotes and stuff. This was like in the early 90s. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I was telling somebody about it, and they told me about the Illuminatus trilogy and how he'd worked. And I was like, what? But I read it, and all the money's described as hemp script, and all the Masons are puffing down and stuff like that. Well,
and,
even the dolphins.
What the hell?
Howard the dolphin, the talking dolphin. That was total like John C. Lilly shit.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Which is pretty interesting to say the least. I got turned on via my old partner Martin at the Hemp Exchange, but also from Nick, the owner of Still Eagle in Nelson, BC. And I stayed at his house one time in the upstairs apartment above the store that he had there. And I just saw these books on the shelf, and it was Schrodinger's cat that first piqued my attention, but right next to that,
I sold Nick a lot of hemp traits. Well, I've just been going over a lot of Wilson. His book Sex and Drugs suggested a connection between the Templars and hashish via the Hashisheen. And one of the chapters in my new book deals with the Holy Grail. And as unbelievable as it sounds, there is connections between the myths of the Holy Grail, which is very connected with the Templars, and cannabis that can be made. And the term Grail is very similar to the Indo-European term Graha, that is the cup that Soma and Heoma is drunk from in the various traditions, a golden cup, sacred cup, and then they partake of it and have their visions. And this traveled down through the Ishmaelis, who had picked up the Persian tradition of cannabis use. That's what led to the Hashisheens. And the Templars and the Hashisheens did historically have a trade of goods and knowledge. And there's been a number of books that claim that there's an elixir of Jerusalem that had the Templars that contained cannabis, aloe, and a couple in a palm wine. But I haven't been able to trace those claims back beyond the early 90s. So I don't know if there's any historical accuracy to it, but I went over the arrests of the Templars and their various charges of ritual sex and devil worship and whatnot. And when they raided their properties, they performed these simultaneous raids. They did, in fact, seize cannabis from the properties. And it doesn't, unfortunately, say the form of the cannabis. You know what I mean? But you would think it was cloth or rope or something like that. It would have been more specific. And they also had a treaty with the Arabs for them to grow cannabis for them in Spain. and they were growing it on Templar land. And why would they get Arabs to grow it? Arabs are more, they know about growing the drug plant. It wasn't really a big fiber plant over in the Middle East like it was over in Europe. So there's some pretty interesting stuff there, and Wilson had actually picked up on that.
I think it's pretty incredible how pervasive this plant is, how broad the swath can be of cannabis, because you can have your drug culture who's really stoked on producing hashish and high THC drug cultivars. But then there's this whole other culture of indigenous people that grew it for fiber and grew it for all these different other things. It's just, it would be of no surprise to me at this point in time if it was conclusive that they put together that the Holy Grail was indeed the medicinal compounds extracted off of the cannabis plant. It would not even surprise me.
Yeah, no, I think
There you go.
I was saying, I think that this like rediscovered history is like the third wave. You know, people had to kind of become familiar with hemp. I remember when I became a hemp activist out here in BC, and you know, there was no other activists. It was a while before I met Paul DeFelice or anybody like that. People didn't even know the word hemp anymore. I smoked weed, grew weed, and somebody told me about hemp, and I was like, what? That can't be true, you know. And they can make all your paper out. I was like, no, I would know that. And it's amazing. And then this whole medical thing and the rediscovery of that, and then the idea that it was used by people before us starts to kind of fall into place, and people are more open to that incredible rich history. And we take a look at what's happened when we separated ourselves from it. You know, what led to what whaling was all the desire for whale oil. You know what I mean? When we could be using hemp oil was a major seed lighting fuel like olive oil and other things, but hemp oil burns very clean.
Derek always pointed out that before we were able to get in a ship and go after a whale, we had hemp seed oil to light our lamps on land. I mean,
Fucking right.
so I mean, hemp preceded so many things we use so casually today. You know, cotton and stuff. And I know it's hard to really think about the fact that people really focused on this plant industrially. If they didn't, where would we be? Without paper, without cloth, without ropes, without sails, without paints and varnishes and all this stuff that we take for granted.
Yep.
That's the best thing. It's a food, it's a fuel, it's a fiber, and it's my medicine. It's everything. It's gonna save me.
Hey, welcome to Tony V in the house, who just finished representing at the International Cannabis Business Conference in San Francisco. I don't know if any of you other guys down in Cali ended up at that event, but looked pretty decent. Looked like those guys. It's funny because it's really a business conference. It's very much like, you know, proper suit and ties, all these investor guys. Yet Alex Rogers, the guy who puts it on, is totally just the least businessman you could ever imagine. Even while he's wearing a suit, he's like, what's up, Bubble? Yo, man, come on, get that rig lit. Like, yeah, let's do this. Like, he's just young at heart. He's just a real head. And I really appreciate him and what he's doing. So you're at this business conference, and I'm sure Tony is going to say the same thing, probably even crazier because they had the Sasquatch crew there as well. But I literally went to the first party at that event, pulled out my pipe. It's at a fancy hotel. It's like very corporately structured. And I just start dabbing, and everyone's kind of like, woohoo, all right. And I believe you guys did the exact same thing. Is that correct, Tony, that you just dabbed everyone up the entire time?
Yeah, I mean, you asked us to go represent the Bubble Man booth. So we threw down the banner on the tablecloth and set up a Sasquatch, and basically was able to put the compressor in a different ballroom. So you didn't actually hear the compressor at all. It was just like, you just see, you could see the action. So it was this, and it was the V2. So similar to what we did in Jamaica, but we had, different people would come through. It's pretty interesting because it's definitely not the setting for pressing flowers, making rosin. And then I had 2 rigs set up for dabs. So we seemed to be pretty popular. But, it's just like a lot of people just thought we were getting people stoned, but that's really not the deal. It was kind of like an opportunity to kind of break the ice, break bread, talk about different things. There was a lot of different local, growers or dispensary owners or different people kind of moseying through. Really shocked to be surprised that of a lot of the other people that came into town from various places around the world and country that didn't didn't really know that there was a way to make bubble from like ice and water, and didn't even know there was a way to press flowers into rosin. So it was kind of cool to like basically educate people on, hey, there's other ways to make extracts, you know, and the fact that they could physically see it in front of them was also very cool. And then it also was in a budget. You know, most people thought the Sasquatch was like $40,000, and I was like, no, it's just like, you know, you can get the compressor, the stand, and everything for like under $4,000 out the door, you know. So a lot of educational stuff, though, you know. But there wasn't anybody denying rosin and turp dips. We had a special. Remember that plunger thing? I think you might have one by now. They're little glass rods, and you could suck up terpenes in quarter drops. So you could get a full drop in one rod. You could go 1/4 drop at a time with this like glass on scientific kind of plunger, as I guess you would call it. But
yeah, those are nice. Those are nice. That's a nice ability to give to people because, I'll tell you, I've definitely dipped some larger dabs than I needed to. It's always nice to be able to break these things up as small as possible.
Especially, yeah. So one guy asked me why I wasn't using electronic nail for the quartz. So what I was explaining to him was like, all right, so we get this to the right temperature. I time it to 110 seconds. And then I just had, say, the strawberry banana goo, you know, like some of this stuff. This was some of the flower rosin we had.
Oh yeah.
And then by using a 1/4 drop plunger, I don't know where mine is right now, but we could take like the Chiquita banana, and then you just sucked it up. We just sucked it up, and then it was almost like a terp chaser. So after the nail had cooled down, you were able to get your first reaction on the rosin. Then chasing it with a 1/4 drop as it's already down temped was like the perfect temperature, perfect volume. You know, it wasn't over the top, but you could get a full flavor. And I think that reaction, I think Colin, who was with us, got quite a few facial reactions to how tasty that actually was.
Well, I love that you geek out on that so hard that it's like this focus on the surface area and also the cooling of the surface area. You don't want to be putting those terps on at 500 or 600 degrees.
No.
When you could drop them on at like 250.
Yeah, and it's just as the 1/4 drop chaser. I mean, it went forever because usually, you know how we did this in Jamaica before, we'd go through terpenes like crazy.
Yeah.
There are other events, but like now it's like the 1/4 droplets are. I mean, think of that. One drop gets four dabs. You know.
Notice when we were in Jamaica, the only vial that ever went missing, and we always found it, but the only one to ever go missing would be like the full 2 ml vial
of the OG Kush.
Fucking unbelievable. I got them all. Where's the 2 ml? I don't know, man. It's in the car, probably under the front seat, maybe. I don't know. I think it was there one time. Good times.
So, hey, as I'm looking further down here, there's some interesting things here on this ICM that I think the entire would be interested in. Here's the very interesting. CBD reduces the intake of alcohol in alcohol-dependent mice. Next is the increase in endocannabinoids reduce colon cancer. And then below that is activation of the CB2 receptor induces cell death in bladder cancer cells. So those all alone are all very interesting scientifically, especially the CBD for alcohol, because I know we've talked about in the past, and I've had studies even done out of my place regarding, you know, alcohol dependency in cannabis, but to see CBD listed as and having effect on mice is very interesting.
Smoking weed makes me not even want to be around anybody that drinks alcohol.
Let me tell you, I can attest.
Come on, how many stoners just stay home on the weekends to avoid that whole ugly mess?
Yeah, right.
You know, it's funny because when I moved to Amsterdam, I actually started going out at night to clubs and to cannabis coffee shops that were open late because I did enjoy the whole culture of it and being able to stand there and meet people from different countries and smoke a joint with them and not be a criminal. And I realized, you know, I liked people. It was a huge epiphany, you know, because growing up in New England where everybody went to a bar and was drunk by 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., because of, you know, last call. It just, you know, you watch all your friends change from really cool to kind of, you know, boozy, alcoholish, asshole, borderline personality disorder. And, you know, when you got cannabis, I mean, people are still nice at 3 a.m. It's really cool.
You're still up.
Yeah, and
That's usually when I'm waking up and getting a pastry from being dabbed out about 3 a.m.
Yes, we're still up.
Oh, Amsterdam pastries on the dam rack?
Oh, yeah.
Those things are
Oh,
so good.
shit. Man, I'll tell you. For me, I'm more into the Fritz, you know, a little late night French fry action out on the dam rack. Woo, let's check it out. I do miss it. I'm not going to lie. My trip to Spain this year goes through Amsterdam, so I was happy to have a little stopover in Zaandam. It's crazy to go there every year for like 20 plus years and then just stop going. It's
It was nice to be able to get those last few years in. It was fantastic to be able to go.
yeah, I mean, it was kind of a bummer in the sense that the cup was crumbling around us, but it's sure, like, I got to admit, like, being kicked out of the milk bag and told to disassemble our booths and walking down the, you know, with my whole suitcase or whatever, and then ending up at one of the little shops and just having a party, that was cool. What wasn't cool was when the tax and the police people came into the room, stopped all of us from leaving, and then inspected us one by one. That took hours, and that was like, I just don't like being told I can't leave anywhere. Like, hey, you can't leave. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. What do you mean I can't leave? We're definitely going to have a problem if that's the case, because you just started an anxiety bomb inside my head, and now I need to leave. Not really, but you know what I'm saying.
So I heard there was a rumor that you were trying to wind this down.
Well, the rumor was from last week after I want to say at least 4 hash churches in a row where I couldn't be a part of hash church. I couldn't speak. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't moderate my show.
Right.
And that was hurting my soul. And then Todd was awesome. He was like, dude, I'm going to step up, hook me up. I'll fucking sign in as Bubble Man's World. I'll run and he's got like super powerful, like fucking NASA internet, 300 megs a second, killing it. And we still don't know what happened, but his shit last week just died for no reason whatsoever. Just fucking stopped working completely. And at that point I was like, fuck hash church. I swear to God, I think I'm done. Because it felt like we were being worked against. I mean, 1, 2, 3 weeks, even 4 weeks, but getting into the 5th week was like, oh my God, my soul. And it was hard. So yeah, I don't remember what I said or what anyone said, but I remember all of a sudden on the internet, everyone talking about hash church like it was over. And I was like, damn, maybe it is over.
Are you
Wow.
thinking hackers?
What's that?
Are you thinking hackers?
No, I'm not thinking hackers at all in any way, shape, or form. You know, when I read tons of conspiracy books, I would have been like, it's the Secret Service, it's CSIS, it's the CIA. Now I'm just like, oh my God, like this is just going live and it's recorded for anyone to watch. I don't think we're that big of a threat. I think we're here to help. I mean, even the powers that be that have an opposite agenda of us must understand that we're not here to fuck with shit. We're just here to like,
spread the good word.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, man.
I
I mean,
mean-
fuck with shit. I want to see change.
I mean, it would be quite amazing if the Secret Service or our president was like watching hash church to get some insight on the industry. It would be pretty cool, you know.
Well, they're learning.
When we were running Pot TV, we had John Walters and those guys commenting on what we were doing. It got pretty heavy, man.
Yeah. that was super heavy when the drug czar showed up on Hastings Street at Mark's shop. That was so fucking surreal. I will never,
Wild
ever.
time,
He reminded me, he was as surreal as Morley Schaefer was in Amsterdam in 1995. He didn't look like he was walking. He was like floating over the ground. Weird gray complexion. Just
I got into a one-on-one with him at that conference.
I know.
A liar, and it went back and forth, and I was spouting off stuff. It was pretty wild, man.
Listen, at the time, what you guys did was by far, listen to this motherfucker.
I'm just laughing about it, man. Hilarious.
Okay.
Just slurping over there.
I did want to say this though, because it's really the truth. What Chris and Dana and I believe was
David was there, Mark, maybe Phil Lucas, I can't remember.
yeah, there was a table of them. They paid big money. Like, was it $1,000 a head or something? For
Yeah,
that
it was
table?
like some like business conference, and Canada was getting real close to legalizing. And
It was all cops. It was all like cops.
yeah, when, John Walters was like all the crack of marijuana, BC Buds, the crack of marijuana. That was his catchphrase, and he was coming to deter this move towards legalization in about 2003 in Vancouver. And we showed up at the press conference under a pseudonym of another corporate name, and then the media went nuts. It was just like a huge. And the Secret Service was there, standing around our table and shit.
Oh yeah. What you're not mentioning, which is really what I wanted to give a shout out to at the time, it was some of the most balls to the walls. You know, it kind of reminded me of Obama trolling Trump at that dinner, which is what now they're saying.
Yeah. Well, you don't realize the effect something's going to have.
Well, holy shit.
Hindsight's 2020. And, you know, when we were fighting for legalization in Canada, we didn't realize the White House was going to be such a major decider in that equation.
Right.
At that time, that's what happened. You know what I mean?
Still,
Hold up. You thought you're Canadian, did you?
Yeah. It's crazy, eh?
How crazy is that? Like your own cops in your own country?
the reality of it is this: they were fucking heckling the drug czar hard, like yelling, "Liar! Lies!" Like heckling the fucking drug czar at a police event. I'm telling you, it was so psychotic and crazy. It's for sure why they went after Mark.
Both the outgoing and incoming mayor also said, no, that's not the way to go, with John Walters. And we're like, you know, we need to like legalize and move away, you know.
It was some serious fucking civil disobedience to the level of like, you guys are hanging over the precipice right now. This is some crazy shit. And then
I like to imagine George W. and Walters in the White House and the computers on. Oh, look at these guys, and they were there.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's so crazy because he definitely went by the store, and I'll never forget Steve Tuck.
Blew smoke right in his face.
Bubble hash smoke, dude. He's like took a huge rip of bubble hash and blew it on the drug czar. I was like, holy shit.
You know, what's funny is one of the other drug czars, Asa Hutchinson, went and became the governor of Arkansas, which he is currently. And they just passed medical marijuana, and that SOB has to implement it. He is trying to obstruct it, but the wonderful citizens of Arkansas are making it and bringing it to fruition. So that I thought was pretty incredible.
That's incredible indeed. Now we got to welcome Mr. Jeff Church to the room. We haven't seen him in Hash Church for evs.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you doing, man?
Oh, doing well. Just went to a cannabis conference here in Seattle yesterday. So
nice. And how was that? I saw some pictures through some different social medias.
Yeah, it was good. It's CannaCon. I think this is their third or fourth year that they've had it going on here in Seattle. So it's definitely a nice place to, do the business to business stuff. There are a lot of different equipment makers there, CO2 extractors. One thing that was interesting, there was no butane extraction equipment there. For some reason, they just called it off. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Like weren't accepting them, or nobody just went for it?
Well, either nobody went for it or nobody was there. There were plenty of CO2 extraction companies there, Eden Labs and Apex and all.
Has John put them all out of business? That's just a joke.
I'm not sure about that, but somebody was saying something about, that a lot of the butane companies weren't really registered with the proper engineering stamps and such like that on their vessels. So I'm not 100% sure on what happened, but that was kind of the interesting thing that was missing.
The refrigerant recovery pumps have always been a sore issue in the industry because they're using stuff that's for really a refrigerant, not for butane.
Yeah.
So I think there's a liability issue as more people are getting into this and talking with their lawyers. They're realizing,
Well, also more of those products are out there and more of these accidents are happening. So that's what's also making them realize that, again, the pumps always seem to be the sticking point, no pun intended.
Yeah. Speaking of pumps, they had a really interesting system there yesterday. It was a CO2 extractor made here in Seattle. I can't remember the name of the company, but it was pumpless. So the only energy input that you have in the whole entire system, and it recycles the CO2 so that you load it up, and then it's it's got a closed loop kind of thing going on. It only uses hot water from the hot water tank. That's the only utility. And all of the other CO2 systems out there are just massive, massive requirements for power. You know, you need 3-phase power to run all of the compressors and chillers to make it happen. So pumpless CO2. Yeah.
Big deal, huh? Next level.
Yeah, and they say it's, they had a 2-pound extractor, and they said that it takes 2 hours to get the 2 pounds done. So it's about a pound an hour can be processed with this pumpless technology.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Well, this is great. This is what we're going to see, is with more industry and more regular businesses now able to look at cannabis in these ways, we'll see these types of innovations. So that's great to hear. I mean, I'll look forward to seeing others, because, you know, that'll start others looking in that direction and starting to manufacture those as well.
Absolutely. Long, awkward pause. Maybe we should blow smoke towards the Vatican. If Darren was here, he would say something like bong rip. I don't think we've taken that many bong rips. Perhaps it's time.
Not the Vatican, Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Smoke towards Jamaica.
Dude, I'll tell you,
Yeah,
Jamaica has enough of its own smoke.
Didn't Jamaica release some permits this week?
Jamaica released 3 preliminary permits, and what that means is out of all the companies and people that sent in license applications, the first thing you get back when everything's sort of, it's the next level, which is they send this letter saying, okay, we got your application. We're going to come in and we're going to inspect and make sure you have this, 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 and this. And when we do, you'll have your full license. In the meantime, the preliminary is really kind of permission to get it going. It releases funding. It allows them to start doing investments. And so three people, I believe 2 people in one company, because 2 of them, I believe, were under an acre or less. And so I believe those are local Jamaican farmers that got their shit together and were able to meet all the guidelines and figured out how to apply. And, you know, they got the first 2. I don't know about the third one, which company it is, but it'll definitely be, they print it all in the newspaper. Anything that really happens in Jamaica gets released in the Observer or the Gleaner. So it's how you can know it. People have been saying they've had licenses in Jamaica for a long time, and they don't.
It's fake news.
It's fake news, man. The news is so, you know what's funny? Here's the thing, without even getting into his perspective of it, it is funny that people are mocking someone for calling the news fake when the news is fake. It's full of fucking bullshit. It's a manipulation. It has been for years. I mean, it's obviously to create something that powerful. It's not just by accident. They use it for a specific means. They're going to obviously manipulate that power, those who are in control of it.
Well, can I say something?
Todd pointed out that, yes,
cannabis has been the biggest loser to fake news for the last 100 fucking years.
Yeah,
what is
dude.
yellow journalism? What is all the things they said wrong about cannabis? I mean, ASA, Americans for Safe Access, just sued the DEA to get them to remove their negative comments about cannabis under what's called the Data Protection Act, because under the United States government's own rules, they're not supposed to lie about things they know scientifically to be true. Crazy concept. But they do anyway, is my point.
Yeah, no, that's well put for sure. I mean, it's not like a huge surprise to me either. The weirdest shit I ever saw was when my friend had a satellite, and he knew how to grab, he would grab media from media trucks that were shooting it up to the satellites and then back down to wherever that media place was. And it was unedited. They'd send these clips of unedited media, and he'd grab it and he'd try to dissect it. And he was all into crazy conspiracy shit. But he did one time find this one footage, and it was a woman in a big crowd making a big stink at some political rally. Dudes come out, stick a syringe in her neck. She passes out, and they carry her off. Then he caught it on the news, and they didn't show them stick the syringe in her neck. They cut it and made it look like she passed out and that these guys showed up to help her. And it was the most frightening, manipulated news piece. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, because how would you? Like, who the fuck's capturing the news before it, gets edited and cut? This was 20 plus years ago as well. So probably not something you can even do today, but it definitely was something you could do then. And it tripped me out for sure. I mean, you figure it's happening, but when you see something like that much of a manipulation happening, it's kind of like, oof.
Well, one thing about Trump is he delivers, you know what I mean? I hate the guy, but he really moves, man. There's never been more of a mover and shaker. And, the 9/11, all that stuff, the news has done it to himself. Gulf War, so much stuff, so it's a tough situation. It's like a sea of misinformation out there. As Denzel Washington said, it's a between being uninformed or misinformed. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to grab what's up with this Russia stuff. Is it real? Isn't it real? It's hard to grasp all of it. But I know that Trump's a blatant liar at the same time, and the media is a blatant liar, and everybody's got their own agenda. So it's a weird time in history for getting the real story. That's for sure. It seems like to me.
But it's funny that the guy who's trying to hustle us is the one standing there saying they're lying over there. Yeah. I kind of find it very appropriate, to be quite honest. And then he's like, and I have a deal for you too, by the way. Hold on, Bridge in Florida.
I'm really good at deals. I know deals.
I only wish Trudeau had moved on some of his promises that he got into office with, like Trump did. You know what I mean? Although Trump's promises are horrible,
Yeah, it's the opposite spectrum of promise. Good God, Trudeau was like hoping shit, and this was like dire World War III and shit.
I don't know. I've lost faith that they were going to see legalization of the Liberals this term. I think they're going to draw it out and then make it an election issue. Oh, we're just about there. If you vote for us for another term, we'll legalize marijuana.
Well, can I ask you all, because you know what, this is turning into an economic issue, whereas I mean it like this, they're starting to realize they can make more in California in 90 days taxing the cannabis population than they could in 10 years of stealing our stuff through Caesars. Because they seized $181 million between 2002 and 12 in California through marijuana-related cases, and now they're looking at $1 billion a year, which is $250 million quarterly.
I do just want to add that I bet
won't they look at us differently?
I bet you that $180 million was a much higher number, but that money never went into the actual documents because it just got pocketed. There's probably another 100 million pocketed or something.
But you know what? Then that would only account for 60 days of taxing us.
Oh no, for sure.
Or like 120 days of taxing us. Sorry.
It was definitely not. It was not.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, it was not to anti your point. Your point stands firm. I just mean, I bet you they fucking took a lot more money than 181 million between those years.
Hey, unfortunately, I think prohibition has turned, straight people into bad people because of economic opportunity. And we saw it with alcohol prohibition. 3 out of 4 federal agents were corrupt.
Well,
so your point is absolutely solid.
And criminal exposure to criminal behavior that one who just likes a plant would have never otherwise been exposed to. It's like, I just wanted to buy an eighth. Now I have a relationship with organized crime. It's like, holy shit. That's
right. But if they start looking at us as an economic opportunity, especially in a situation where they're trying to talk up jobs and talk up growth and domestic production, we do produce cannabis really well domestically in North America. If they would let us send it all over the world, that would be great. I'm sure the farmers in Kentucky would love it.
Absolutely. So did you guys hear this argument that Joe Rogan had recently with one of his guests about cannabis? Did you guys get to see this? Stephen, what was his name? He's kind of like an alt-right kind of guy. It was pretty good if you haven't seen it. It's Joe was defending, people were like, you could definitely tell your influence on Joe, Todd, in regards to his knowledge of cannabis-based facts. So he was arguing this guy. This guy had the classic, like, I don't have a problem with CBD, okay? I don't have a problem with CBD. It's like, yeah, because they didn't spend billions of fucking dollars on propaganda for you to have a problem with CBD. They did it with THC, so you have a big fucking problem with THC. I just can't believe the amount of like brainwashing that goes on when it comes to CBD and THC, and how one is like the black sheep of the family and the other is like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, valedictorian fucking quarterback of the football team. What the fuck?
Trudeau had moved on some of his promises that he got into office with, like.
Ding. Welcome into the chat room there, Indra. Stephen Crowder. That's who it was. Stephen Crowder. They were drunk. I thought it was still pretty good. That guy was a lame ass, absolutely. Just reading the chat right now for those of you wondering, trying to interact with our chat.
So he was just against THC altogether, but totally cool with CBD.
Yeah, his excuse was like, I have a problem with people that's saying it's good for A, B, C, and D, when really it's just good for A, and B and C and D are a fallacy. I was just like, whoa, this guy really does not know how deep it goes.
To qualify what he was talking about, because what annoys Joe is when people generalize and make statements not based on anything that you can really put a pin your hat on. And he was just trying to get him to say, do you think that it doesn't work for glaucoma or people with AIDS, and it doesn't help with nausea? Like, he was just trying to say, what are these things that you're saying? If A is real but the rest are fake, what are the fake things you're mentioning? And of course, a lot that they can't really argue against someone, especially Joe, who's so well read and so passionate and sitting there hitting his pipe.
Right? That was my favorite. When he hit his pipe, I was like, he's like, you know what I like? I like hitting my pipe. I was like, shit, Joe's a fucker. I like that.
He's real as real gets. I think he's the best thing. I mean, in all honesty, I love the guy because he's been a good friend of mine for a long time, but I love the guy because of what he's doing. He's injecting so much information into the world that we would never really, or a lot of people wouldn't have access to, and he has such an array of people on. It's great. He's had Rick Doblin on, Ethan Nadelman on. He's let people that I admire step in there along with people that everyone's heard of, which I think is a fantastic balance.
Yeah, no, I'm
Did you see Alex Jones on there puffing?
That was wild, dude. I don't know. My brain hurts now. I don't know even what to say about Alex Jones anymore. I mean, he was crazy in 2000.
Yeah. Well, you know what I like about Joe Rogan is I see all these like MMAR guys coming into my shop, and they've been changed. Those guys would not have been as enlightened if it hadn't been for Joe Rogan and telling them about DMT and other herbs and stuff like that.
Him and Eddie Bravo have done wonders with cannabis.
He's had a huge influence on a whole genre of males between like 20 and 40 that are that kind of jockey type of dude, and he's changed that culture in a huge way that's better for people like us.
So can you explain to the audience who may or may not know that what your shop is and what you do as your main sort of gig? And because it's where what you're talking about is people coming into your shop and having this knowledge and asking you questions that you're impressed with.
Well, I have a shop, Urban Shaman Ethnobotanicals. It's been here in Vancouver for 2001. I got a couple of locations. And it is devoted to humanity having a natural right to plants. And I sell as many plants as I can legally without going to jail. And I sell them for, not necessarily for human consumption, for people to have them and possess them. I believe it's people's rights to use plants as they want. We have a natural right to plants. And so I have a variety of plants, some of which Joe Rogan has talked about on his show. And so I get, a lot of these plants are used in shamanism, and then I have natural relaxants like kratom is very popular. So I notice a huge influx of those type of guys, MMAR type guys that work out at the gym, that type of guy that be into Joe Rogan, listen to the Joe Rogan show, that come into my shop, and they're more worldly because of the influence of Joe Rogan, and more spiritual as well, I would say.
That's awesome. So what are the main plants that he's mentioned that people are coming to check?
A lot of Mimosa hostilis goes out of the shop through Joe Rogan. And that's a plant that's used in the preparation of ayahuasca, but you can make dyes out of it, soaps and other things as well.
So is that harmine and harmaline that's present in that one?
There's a DMT present in.
Oh, tryptamine straight up. So it's like the Varula viridis or whatnot.
There's no DMT in the seeds that you just mentioned. Sorry, those are activated to make DMT available to your body orally. Those harmaline seeds have no DMT in them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's Syrian rue seeds.
Yeah, we weren't talking about those seeds though.
We were talking about Mimosa hostilis, which is another plant altogether.
Yeah, the two of those mixed together to
Yeah.
form a orally active DMT.
Yeah.
Yep, Chris sells all sorts of different psychedelic plants and has extensive knowledge as a psychonaut in the ways of the psychedelic plants.
Did you know
Only
that you
available in
can buy all
Canada for
the,
It's a great place to visit.
did you know you can buy all the ingredients for doing that on Amazon? Amazon sells all of those ingredients separately. You can get 5-pound boxes of them from Amazon and produce it at home.
Yes, well, or you could support Chris's business, who's our guest here on the show.
No.
Either or. I'm just joking.
Where are you?
I really like the cactuses myself. You know what I mean? Peyote is perfectly legal in Canada.
Yeah.
And you know, they were going to outlaw peyote in the 70s, but then they would have had to create a religious exemption for the Native American church, and they thought that might open it up to Rastafarians getting religious exemptions for cannabis by setting a precedent. So they left peyote completely legal in Canada. The unfortunate thing is it's very hard to grow. You got to grow it in greenhouses, takes forever, so it makes it very expensive. But I really like the cactuses, man. That's a really wonderful medicine.
The peyote grafts onto a number of other cactuses that accelerates the growth exponentially.
Absolutely.
I have some that are at this stage 2 years later are the same size that a 7-year-old on its own root has grown, and I think that's
It takes 12 to 15 years, right, for it to mature?
Like a regular peyote, but like as Indra was saying, you could accelerate the growth by grafting it on a trichocereus or some other cactus. And there's certain ones you can use that really accelerate it. Then you got to like to get the mescaline levels up, you got to cut it off about a year, and it grows a new taproot, and then it really starts producing mescaline a little bit better.
I was real proud of my stepdad. He and my mother were both adopted by Quanah Parker's family, and he was a World War II vet. And in his 80s, he did the full sweat lodge with the peyote, and he said it was one of the most beautiful experiences. And I just humbly sat before him because I've done mescaline, but I've never done the button itself, much less in a proper ceremony with Comanche. He's made his full dress, as well as, since he was a warrior, he's in the warrior class, and all his medals go down his full feathered hair dress that he made himself, along with his eagle feather. So, I had a great respect for peyote as well as the medicine, but to see my stepfather go through that and how beautiful the experience was for him was, again, just a whole other level of appreciation.
Hey, Ten, the real trip with peyote is to eat it alone with nobody else around and out somewhere where you can manage that. I've done that a number of times in my life, and it's the most amazing trip ever. There's nobody there to distract your attention, and your heartbeat starts beating with the earth. You don't even want to kick a stone out of the path because you realize that even that stone has a place to be, and it's not up to you to change it. Peyote is absolutely the best alone. I know they do it in sweat lodges and they do it under all sorts of circumstances, and I've done it under all those circumstances, but alone. I also like mushroom trips alone. I like LSD trips alone. And so maybe it's just me. I think a lot of people don't like tripping alone, but I think
I'm of the Aldous Huxley school of shamanism as well. You know what I mean? It's more about what's going on in the old noggin than anything else. Although I don't mind tripping with a close friend once in a while and having a really intimate experience, intellectual experience. But I'm not so into all these different traditions and stuff. You know what I mean? I respect it, but I'm not so into it. It's more about what goes on in your own experience,
Exactly. Look, the whole world is in your head anyway, and we're all, little connections to it. And the more you let go to that, the more stations you start to receive. A lot of people just want to receive a few stations that they think, oh yeah, well, I'm going to listen to this or I'm going to listen to that. But if you just open yourself up like an overseas radio to all the stations, you'll start finding some amazing information being broadcast.
Psychedelics can be so healing, man. You know, it's like great to see organizations like MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and others following in the footsteps of medical marijuana and being seriously looked at for therapeutic purposes, because it can really help an individual go to those things that happen to us in childhood and things like that have formed, you know, little bumps in our personality that are holding us up, and remove those knots and get down to being a more, you know, more down to the essence of a true being, you know, in the same way yogic practices and other things can do that.
Well, the very reason, Chris, that you have those thoughts first when you take a trip is because those are the insecurities. Those rise to the surface first. And when you can deal with those and move on is when you can start to experience the exponential growth. You know, there's different highs, mescaline and so forth is very head high, but there's entactogens and ethnogens, which do go well in a group setting. But sometimes I think the true psychedelics don't go so great in a group setting. And Jeff, by the way, the reason there weren't so many people showing up there with BHO systems is because my attorneys are busy shutting those guys down as fast as possible, especially the ones that create these that are full of,
did I not call it?
Full of blowouts. Between me, the fire marshals, and my patent attorneys, yeah, we're shutting them down. So you're going to see less and less of them at those places. And then you'll start seeing here after April, my booth showing up with the only true fire-safe real extractor patented made, and that'll be available. And we will be coming out with the 2-pounder this year due to popular demand, and it's got a new patented system for the gas. It's called a push-pull system, and it's very fast and efficient. It'll do 1 or even up to 2 pounds, and I think we're going to try to make it as cheap as possible. We're going for a build budget on the guy in Switzerland. If he can build them at the right price, everybody's going to have one of these at home on the kitchen counter. And you can extract all sorts of nonsense in it. I mean, you know, you don't have to just do that. And John Bertolo, I want to send you this little sample of these other terpenes, the one that smells like the most amazing hash. What's going to happen when I drop it in the mail, bro?
Nothing.
Mark. You sure?
Hey, welcome D420K.
Hello. Are you sure, John? Because I don't want to make a problem. I don't want to make a problem for you.
Hey, Indra, maybe it's something you could talk to John off camera about.
Okay, I just wanted to mention it to him because
yeah, you guys can chat about it off camera. That's, I mean, just even in the chat room, that's doable. And what about you, D420K? Are we going to hear from you now? Because I've been holding my pipe the whole time waiting.
Yes, we are going to have a bong rip.
Perfect.
How is the hash world and all the hash lovers and makers out there in the world doing today? I learned something yesterday.
What'd you learn?
I learned that my rosin press has a button on it that says Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Really?
And I had my button on Fahrenheit, I believe, and I had it way too fucking hot.
No, you would have had it on Celsius.
Okay. Way too hot.
Did you have it like 200 Celsius then, huh?
Yes. I was trying to get it up there. It got up to about 176, and when I was squishing the rosin out, it was spit out like mad. I figured out I had a learning curve yesterday, and I learned.
Well, dude, when I saw the video of that shit coming out of the press, I was like, what the fuck? It was so liquidy, and it was just spurting. I've never seen it spurt. Forget about dripping. It was like, and it was like a huge press. Like he must have had 100 grams of bubble hash in there.
Well, actually, they were only 20-gram packs, 20-gram pieces at a time. And I was holding my camera I was holding my camera here, and the leg part of it right down here was the one leg was covered in rosin from its spin.
No!
Yes, it was fucking covered. It was just spraying out, man. Fuck. I was so and trying to get that shit off the parchment paper. Whoo!
Yeah, greasy, oily, fucking impossible. You got to freeze that shit solid.
Oh man, it's well, I learned anyways, and it was literally one of the simplest things. Here's another real simple thing that I fucking did. You guys are gonna love this one.
Well, I do appreciate it right off the bat that you put your ego aside and share your mistakes with us, because A, everyone's enjoying it, plus B, more importantly than anything, that shit teaches you.
Oh.
Other people telling you shit does not teach you.
Well,
Making your own mistakes.
That was my curve. I didn't realize that button, and I was going with what I was told by a whole bunch of guys. You included, a couple other guys that are really up on their game, and I was like, okay, no problem. Fucking press it up there, 200. It's like, shit, it's not getting that high. It's taken a long time to get there. It's only staying at about 174, 176. Fuck, I'll give it a try. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I learned.
Maxed out your plates.
Yeah.
Just melting the plates off the press. I don't know what's going on, man. I put the plates together and they won't come apart.
Yeah, fuck it.
It was full yield fast though.
It was different. The stuff is really good though too. Like fuck, it tastes good and it doesn't smell like burnt popcorn anyways, so that's good. And but the other day, like I got probably 10, 12 different camera security system around my home here. And I had to get my modem changed for my internet. And I have all those cameras powered by one separate little tower that's plugged into my modem. Well, when that modem was unplugged, I lost all my cameras. And I waited for 4 weeks for my tech to come out here, get off his holidays, come to my place and everything, to literally plug in the piece that goes into the back of the modem to the fucking one, to the extra server that ran on my camera. Everything just fucking work. Woohoo! Oh boy.
Fucking.
Oh, man. I was almost gonna text him and say, like, look, I've been fucking waiting for you for a fucking month and everything. And I didn't do that, but I was like, bro, I gotta see you. My cameras aren't working. Like, I really gotta see you. He goes, okay, I'll take time today. And this guy's super fucking busy all the time. He comes out, we have a joint, plug it in, and fucking he goes home. Didn't even charge me anything, so. Bong rip, everybody.
Bong rip.
Bong rip.
Oh, it's a bong ripper.
The bong ripper.
The bong ripper.
The bong
I
ripper.
had a nice morning sifting, cleaning little session, so I got some great sift here for breakfast.
Nice, Johnny B. Very good, very good.
So I think that I'll have some new stuff for Hash Church if you're not going to end it, because we've only spent a year working on trying to get a nice hash lab going, man. And here shortly, in a few weeks, I think we could actually start doing some live demos and shows and different things on how we do and brand.
That'd be very, very cool, dude. I know I've been privy to the photos and the updates, but definitely exciting lab that Tony and crew are building down there for not only the Bubble Man brand, but some Blue River and I'm sure some United Cannabis Prana stuff and a whole variety of things that you'll be doing.
Yeah, let me see if I could show you. Let's see, we'll do desktop. This will be cool though, because I don't know, can you see this right now?
Yep.
Sweet. So this is like an older warehouse. I don't know if you can see this. This had to take some work. All the floors were like concrete with rebar and stuff in them. And then trying to set a cool standard. This will be like where Prana, Blue River, and Bubble Man all get manufactured in California.
Yeah, dude.
I took the aspect of kind of like, here, I'll show you, when you go into the world of clean rooms and Let's see what we got here. There we go. Can you see that? You can see my screen still.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
really small though.
Okay, hold on. So like, this is like taking some time, but everything from the actual painting specs, flooring specs, the chairs, when you think of building a clean room and having like a point system. I used to be a builder back in the day. I always was like LEED certified buildings and off the grid net zero projects. So I wanted to make sure that even the painting specs received the highest degree if we were going for LEED for antimicrobial properties, resistance to mildew. And these are a particular line of no VOC paints and things like that that are used in hospitals. And so taking like the healthcare, taking a hybrid look at healthcare and clean room status and hospital surgical rooms. So that way when you're talking about a standard, you can say, okay, in this particular floor, this floor is a seamless floor that they use in surgical rooms. So like blood doesn't even stain the floor. And then there'll be like a water filtration system so that everything gets RO'd, then UV, then ionic exchange. So you can use like 2.5 pH water for cleaning the floors as well as the tops. All the lights are exchanged to LEDs. So that painting spec is these are all in the Harmony lines as paints. So you get like antimicrobial floors, walls, UV air, UV water. It means the ice that's used in the hash will all meet certain specifications, pH balance, just a bunch of like standards that I just don't really see being applied in the hash making world or industry, even like what the bags go through. So I think it's really important to create a standard and a clean process to creating these products, so that way, at least on the processor side, we're doing everything we can. As the farmers, as everyone knows, has to deal with pesticides, bugs, microbials, and it's going to get more and more stringent on the farmers as well as the processors. So having no contamination in a lab or making a product with checkpoints is important. And I think that in the future here, I'll be able to kind of show a bunch of different things, especially like the walk-in freezer will be 10 by 10. So we'll be able to film inside there and be able to show you like a whole bunch of different cool ways of making hash.
You got to make sure the coatings are solvent resistant. Solvent resistance is a really important thing, especially if you're going to be handling solvents, right?
Yeah, no solvents in the lab, not even alcohol to clean the furniture.
Well, except the terpenes that you extract.
Right. The paint and the floors are solvent rated, but like ammonia shouldn't be used on it. But it's the same. Those floors are the same that are used in like a surgical room.
So you mentioned using water at 2.5 pH instead of using that. So why would you do that? Like why 2.5?
So if you just look at water can be used as a solvent based on its pH. So if you used a really low acidic type of water, it actually can be used to clean.
Would that help with a say fungus or
corrosive,
anything like that? So would be good.
You don't want to use
in a room.
You don't have to go that far down, but like you can use it in that aspect too for cleaning.
There you go. Yeah, just a question. Let people.
It's just as low as it could
low
go.
pH water is a way of.
Yeah, the ionic exchanger goes. The exchange system goes from 2.5 to like 11.5 or 12.5. So you have a range,
Yeah, high pH used to spray on plants for powdery mildew when they were outside. Anything about 9. That was from someone mentioned that once when I was talking to him years ago, and I think I started doing that outside for my plants in September that were getting a little bit of powdery mildew. Couldn't do anything about was just high pH water.
Right, but the problem, so this is great you're doing that, Tony. I think it's awesome. We were talking about this a year ago, and these water ionizers are fantastic. There's actually a hotel in Santa Monica that got rid of their chemicals, and they use acidic water to decontaminate, and they use alkaline water to degrease. So they use water as their base, and they don't use chemicals anymore. So people, and I think gardeners especially, are now looking at chemical-free ways of raising their plants, because now that we're into extractions and terpenes, we don't necessarily want to have them contaminated with even organic pesticides, potassium salts, anything really gets in the way of us enjoying a good cannabis extract. So water, I think, is the solution, because if you use acidic water, you can kill bugs, and if you use alkaline water, you can kill mold. But my warning is don't spray really high alkaline water onto a flowering plant, or you will literally rinse away, because high alkaline water is 100% a solvent on oils, and it will rinse away your terpenes and your resin. So don't go too far into flower like
what would you look
7
at?
or 8, or you might really damage the resin that's on the plant. Rinse it off.
Yeah, he was talking about cleaning the floor, not washing plants with acidic water. That's obviously, like, don't do that for sure. That's a reiteration for certain. Hey, who did we just have bump right into the room that I saw? Subcool. Dude, how's it going, man?
Very good, very good. Thank you for inviting me.
Dude, I had so many people online going, "Are you mad at Subcool?" I'm like, no, I've never been mad at Subcool. What are you talking about? What about Cuban? I heard you're mad at Cuban. I'm like, no, I'm not mad at Cuban either. I got all these beef with my friends that I don't know about until people on Instagram tell me about it. So,
well, you know I love you, Mark. Always will, always have.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. We go way back. So it's good to see you. I hope you're feeling okay.
Yeah.
It's actually a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to see you.
I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that filled up the panel, and we busted 800. Subcool's in the house.
We're almost ready to. Yeah, I'm taking one for that, because we're almost
there. You go.
Rip.
We've been talking about running some Subcool for a while, so now we're almost there, Bubble Man. We're almost ready.
To approach Sub and say, listen,
we got to make some hash.
Dude, I'll tell you, it definitely produces fire genetics. Everything I've ever run from Sub has, and not from Sub like he grew it, but even my own grow or friends grows with Sub's cultivars, they produce melty hash. Like, they are hash producers. I like that.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, and I'm on Hash Church. A large portion of my bud room is now going to just hash plants. I'm running the Pinot, and I'm running the Blood Wreck, and they're just going straight to make hash because, well, it's all I smoke nowadays. So, why buy it? Why suffer through it? Why not smoke the best? So back half of my bud room is now just going to be for my hash production.
Nice
That's
job.
a dream come true.
That's awesome. My whole crop's for just hash. So
when I first met Johnny, he used to keep his buds in jars. He'd have all these beautiful buds and be like, check. And I was like, man, these are beautiful buds. We should crush them up and dry sift them. We should throw them in water and ice. He's like, oh, hey, just a second. Like, we can use I'll use like 20%. Turned into, we'll use half. Turned into, I'm crushing my whole crop. The whole fucking crop gets crushed every time. I just crush it over.
I used to put the whole thing directly into the freezer and just cut down and go right to the freezer for a while.
That's what I was doing while I had my license going. I was just cutting fresh buds, putting it in the freezer, and yeah, getting ready to run it. I'm gonna have to bring some Ecuador-friendly TGA cultivars to Jamaica.
I would love to see you run the, it's called the Pinot Rita. It's Highland Oaxacan Gold times the Space Queen. It's pretty amazing.
Man, that does sound nice. That Space Queen, though, Jesus.
Right?
Yeah. I'll tell you, that Reggie the Roddy, he used to have some pretty fire Space Queen. Remember that guy from the chat room years ago? Winnipeg guy, Reggie the Roddy?
Oh, I do remember him, yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I ended up knowing him quite well over the years. He actually does really kind things for my mother, helps her out here and there with fixing things around the house, and maybe making her a little batch of some coconut oil if she requires. It's nice when our parents can get turned on to the endocannabinoid system and sort of realize as they get older. I think it's easier for them to hear when they actually, when you're saying, no, it's really good for pain. It's like, really? Because I'm in pain right now. Or it's really good for sleep, or it's really good for whatever these key things are. These are, you know, pain, arthritic pain, insomnia, lack of sleeping. Those are big deals for people. If you can take care of those two things, that's pretty huge right there.
Anxiety, panic attacks, that sort of stuff too. Those sort of things.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
I think the thing that's funny, you mentioned earlier. So my mom is pretty much one of the most anti-weed people I've ever met in my life. I mean, let me sit in the joint over Christmas because of a joint, stuff like that. But, you know, she uses CBD salve now on her elbows and her neck, and she won't ingest it. But that is like a huge leap for her to even think about using it. And she's like, can you get me some more of that rubbing cream?
That's amazing.
So, and again, she's still, when I talk to her on the phone, this is my mom. Are you still smoking that weed? So, and that's her. After 45 years, she's still saying that to me. So anyway.
That's pretty awesome. She's saying that to Sub Cool. Are you still smoking that weed? Is that something?
She would know you were still smoking that weed if she had you too.
My mom used to ask me that up until recently. I said, no, I don't smoke weed. I vaporize pure resin. And she's like, what's that mean? I was like, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way to do it right there, Tony.
You just put them on their heels. They're like, what? What do you mean you don't smoke? We don't smoke joints anymore. Come on.
Joints? No, I haven't smoked cannabis in almost 15 years. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's weird, the power of the propaganda and how it was like a marketing campaign that got people to think a specific way. And you really see it strong in these people that are now, and how we have to constantly, the same way we had to split cannabis and hemp to get hemp allowed. Now cannabis is getting split into THC and CBD. One's terrible and gets you stoned, and one's really good. It's good for the children. It's like, I really like it. I rub it on my neck at night. It's like, fuck, it's crazy. I know the foot in the door mentality and I like it. We got to get it. But I just can't wait till the whole plant has caught up and people are like, wow, remember when we like thought only one part was good and we were afraid of another part? How fucking stupid were we when we thought that? It's like pretty stupid. Long, awkward silence.
Well, you know, I've been on a couple of shows lately and doing my own podcast just to keep me from being bored. But the main thread that I am really at, and I think we've got some movement now in the U.S., is the banking system. I mean, I bitch about that constantly. The fact that we have a multi-billion-dollar business here in America and we cannot put our money in the fucking bank. And I'm just sick of it. And it looks like, at least, and maybe you guys can help me out, one senator is maybe pushing some stuff forward to maybe fix interstate banking and maybe open banks.
Elizabeth Warren, she's also on the banking commission. So she's putting forth that, as well as due to this week we started the Cannabis Caucus, the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, which has senators from California and Colorado who are getting together and lobbying and putting forth bills to not only protect states' rights, but also the banking issue is one of the most predominant, because Elizabeth Warren's state just also passed legislation for cannabis. So it's something that's also within her purview, and because she's also on the finance committee, there's a possibility we could see some action there, as well as possible 280 relief by possibly May.
I'm sorry. It seems to me that one of the big problems is we have in California, we have four basic bills on the docket, and each one of the bills somewhat conflicts with the other one. And so for us to go forward, they're going to have to fix the language and kind of make these four different ideas one thing that'll work, and they're a long way from that, in my opinion.
Well, here in Canada, it's going about it a bit of a different way, and this is the way I see it happening, based on the works of Jonathan Zaid, young activist, cannabis user that's been on Hash Church a few times, as well as Hillary Black. And I saw recently they had moved. he's basically gotten insurance to pay for his cannabis, and now he's working on this bigger case where it will happen for all the people in Canada. And insurance won't be able to cover cannabis on that level without banking opening up to those companies. It all has to be done through the banks. So I think it's going to be done through the activism that is getting cannabis used in insurance, being able to use insurance to pay for your cannabis medicine.
Sorry, I completely disagree with that. It's going to happen through veterans, and the veterans are going to make the government federal rule go away because veterans want it, need it. There's more of them asking for it every single day, and it'll continue like that. And there's more pressure on them every single day. And there's far more veterans, and the need is much greater than a bunch of activists. You know, and I don't mean anything bad about the activists. I'm just saying that the veterans have been needing this for a very long time.
Yeah, but it's not about the activists, John. You got, once again, you've totally missed the mark. And what I mean by that is that he's just helping do the work. It can be the veterans, no problem. That's great. But what it's going to be is insurance covering their cannabis that opens up banking.
So in Canada, the government pays for veterans to have 10 grams every day. So, I mean, that's not an insurance issue. It's the government, and that's the way it's going to happen here because the VA is going to have to not only open up to it, but they're going to have to start paying for pot for the vets. So I don't think I missed the point. I think what I did was
I don't know
brought the point out. You know, the point's been too pointed in one direction, and all I'm doing is opening it up to another idea.
There are lots of ways that this is going to happen. You know, I think that in Canada, the big push could be that the insurance companies do that because that's huge. That, you know, that's moving things forward. In California, I honestly think it's going to be the same thing that has opened up banking here in Washington. Because if you're a recreational business with a license here, no problem. You got a bank account. You can get a bank account. They just come pick your money up in an armored car, and you know, if you've got a retail store or whatever, they'll put it in the bank account. There's big fees right now because it's not really easy to do banking, but you can actually put your money into the bank and pay all of your employees with the bank and tell that bank, yes, we grow cannabis and sell cannabis. And
but that's in Canada. I mean,
that's in Washington. That's in Washington right now. And the thing is, it's the license. The legalization of cannabis is really what's going on there. And if in Canada they don't have legalization, this is another form of legalization where the insurance companies have to pay for it. So there is real commerce going on, you know. So
it's okay to have a marijuana business in Washington, and in Washington they will give you a bank account, even though you're doing marijuana.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Cool. Do you hear that? What you need is an office in fucking Seattle, dude.
I mean, I live in Seattle, and
cool. So cool. I'm saying his banking problem can go away when he gets an office in Seattle.
Actually, no. Can I just interject for a second?
High Times Cup at the Santa Rosa Fairgrounds. I mean, they said $1.5 million was spent, and it was all cash again. So, you know, if they could just give us a credit card machine, security will be a lot easier at these events because pretty much anybody that runs a booth, you know, when they're leaving these events, everybody knows how much money they're carrying with them, and it's just a safety issue. So that's one of my biggest bitches, that we're not allowed to use credit cards in our business. But it sounds like things are changing in Seattle.
Yeah, it started off like a cashless ATM system where they you know had this kind of thing on the side. They slid your debit card, you did a debit card transaction, and that's how you would make your payment. And now they actually have credit processing at some of the places. You know, there's a lot of places that are still cash only, but they do have banks. You know, all of these stores.
In California, they have this delivery service called GramUp. Those guys take your card online and deliver it to you the next day everywhere in California. So it's moving along. Mm-hmm. I never thought I would see that day. I remember in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, kept thinking to myself every year, hey, it's going to go legal soon. Took till now.
And we're still saying it. We're still saying it. It's so close.
Well, it's a lot closer than I've ever seen it. I used to be looking at it from Mount Everest and trying to see New Jersey with a set of cheap binoculars. And you know, now I'm on the boardwalk in New Jersey, and
well, and, you know, I read a report on Google News this week, and it basically was saying that they better be careful how they handle the big states like California, because I mean, if they stop cannabis commerce in here, they're going to be shutting down $2 billion from the economy. And where I live, trust me, it is weed economy. Everybody buys their school clothes. Everything here is based on weed because that's how all the money is being generated.
Well, if you saw what happened this week in the state of California, they had testimony with the real players in the regulation, and they're going to actually hold off. It's going to be pushed back. It's not going to be ready for legalization on January 1, 2018, and I expect legislation here introduced soon that will stave that off further, unfortunately, because, you know, when I saw the budget only allowed for $54 million from Moonbeam, who is the governor, that was enough to realize that they did not put enough money toward seriously the realities that it's going to take place to regulate an entire state as large as California. So
GoFundMe page for the state of California then?
No, it's going to be done legislatively. It's just going to be they want to do it right. They don't want to rush it. They saw what happened in Colorado and in Washington, and they do want to keep medical cannabis separate from legalization. So they want, because no other states have necessarily done it correctly, they've each done their wonderful ways. However, California sees a way to do it a different way, and so stay tuned. I have nothing but what I'm seeing online, and those testimonies happened midweek, so and that's online, so you can actually see what Laura Ajax and them are working on and what they're actually doing there for the state of California, but realize also how great a undertaking it is in the short amount of time that they have asked. It's a pretty Herculean task in its own right, much less they want to do it right and don't want to rush it. So stay tuned. Sorry, I wish I said there was an immediate solution, but it's not.
Can I ask, what do you think? What do you think is happening in the meantime? We're kind of in this hiatus where we're kind of working off the new law, and we're waiting for the old law, and we're waiting for the new law. But I mean, is it going to be just business as usual until they figure something out?
We have no other choice. We have to still serve our patients, and the state still wants our, tax money. So those two realities make sure that we have to, it is status quo until we find out differently, and the banking situation is still the same. Nothing has really changed. So we're, still in that reality until.
Can I just point out something that seems obvious? It's if all the banks are federally insured, FDIC. That is our real stumbling point, because we need Congress and the president to come around and say, sorry, pot prohibition was a dumb idea, we're going to legalize it, and then the banks won't face criminal charges for basically letting us bank. And that's been the crux of the issue on a federal level. And the states, even though there are banks in the states that are not FDIC, I lived through what was called the Rhode Island banking crisis, and our state governor shut down 45 credit unions in 1991 because they basically didn't have good insurance. And then when they tried to apply for FDIC insurance, some of the banks never opened again. And I experienced two of the banks I used never opening again, which really crushed my faith in the banking system. So there's a lot of elements going on when we're talking about, are they going to let it into banking on a state level or a federal level? And if things change federally, then I think it's going to be game on for all the banks to be able to deal with people within these legal communities in the states, because now it would be like federal alcohol prohibition lifting, and suddenly Jack Daniels can ship from Tennessee to wherever the hell they want, right?
Back to insurance though, right? Those banks need insurance.
Well, and that's the reality that we've faced, is that, no FDIC bank that's insured will handle anything stateside, so that is a great challenge, and that's one that is being worked on, and, people who are working on it behind the scenes. And again, one of the things that the National Cannabis Industry Association works on, but these are major power plays. So we're definitely, it takes its time. It's not something that happens quickly and overnight. And I wish it was, but that's the reality of what we face.
Well, you know, personally, I'm in a weird situation. As much as I want everything to move forward, I guess it was about 6 years ago, I bought 3 acres in California so I could live the California dream. And apparently, even though I live in the middle of wine country and my neighbor's growing wine and my other neighbor's growing this, apparently I'm not agriculture. So I will never be able to grow recreational here. So I'm actually not that pissed off they aren't changing anything, because right now I can produce under 215 and I can actually distribute to the dispensaries. After they pass the laws, we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know if we can get a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, because nobody in the BOE knows any damn thing. So kind of in this crazy thing where we own these giant businesses, but we don't know what the businesses will be once they change the laws.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, therein lies the opportunity, is in the unknown. You know, that's what everyone's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, therein lies the opportunity to go talk with the people that are setting these rules and regulations, and let them know what you want, what will work for you as somebody that's already a business owner. You know, I mean, it's just get one of those licenses. That's what you've got to do.
Well, be active.
Can I tell you guys a funny story? So one of my head breeders, Heroes of the Farm, he owns a very large plot in Oregon. He paid $1 million for it. And he set it up. He started building his 2 tier 3 greenhouses, and he built like 7 of them. He's got a skate park and bathroom, all there for his workers. Well, somebody came along and offered him $1.5 million for one of the greenhouses, fully operational, turnkey. And so he sold it to him, and now he's got 6 lots. You can see it on his Instagram, Heroes of the Farm. He's got 6 lots that are set up, pre-approved, tier 3. He's done all the work for you, and all you got to do is give him $450,000, and he'll set you up. So he's gone from being a weed grower to a weed real estate broker. And I just think that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life.
It happened here as well. The MMAR licensing that protected people from the law under the Health Canada rules and regulations, really a lot of people just saw it as a place to let's just start, woohoo! And because it was this legal license, it became a real estate game for a lot of people. People started making serious banks, moving pieces of property and getting people into homes in a variety of ways, but definitely a decent sized group of people banked hard off of that here in the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you used to never see property for sale that said, good place to grow pot. Or,
yeah, great place, all set up.
But now, hey, on Craigslist in California, I mean, it's like you can buy any kind of pot farm you can think of, wherever you want it, whatever the location. They'll even get the license and the permits and the well permit and line you up with distributors. And it's crazy. And this is like on real estate, you know, it's like every other place is a 215 property. You don't really know if it is or not. You got to do your own homework, because there's a lot of places that are legislating as we speak their own set of rules, which is it's the golden rule as usual.
Yeah, you know, and I mean,
it's the rules.
And after legalization comes in, they'll continue to regulate. And I mean, that's what happened here in Washington. Actually, the farm that I work on, they got their business licenses in the first round, and then the county passed a moratorium on new marijuana business. And so they're not allowed to do certain things out there because they weren't part of their business plan in the first place when they applied for the business permits. So, you know, a lot of farms out there want to do extraction. We were wanting to do alcohol extraction, but can't do it.
Well, you know, the future of all extraction is going to be spray your plants while they're in the ground with liquid nitrogen, freeze them, cut them down, put them in the extraction chamber, and that's going to be the future of it. All this wasting time of drying plants for 2 weeks is going to go out the window. A fresh plant produces the best live resin. You get the hydrosols, you get the terpenes, you get it all in one extraction, and if you got the right kind of a system in the bottom, you can separate it out with a separatory funnel. and have a lot of fun because it's much nicer. And I fought it for years. I always wanted to give me the dried stuff, give me stuff that's cured. But now I realize that was all nonsense. Just freezing the plants and extracting them is the future path. It takes a lot of time out of the equation if you don't have to dry them for 3 or 4 weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like the fresh stuff. So are you guys aware of what's going on in Oregon? That is a perfect example of overregulation. So, you know, Jill lives there and she's all set up. So there's just a couple of things going on right now. So you have to get your cannabis flowers tested by the state. So that's $500 for a test. And then they're taking up to 45 days to return your sample to you. So you got to harvest and wait 45 days and invest $500. If you're a small craft grower, you might not can afford that $500. Then do the extracts. They've added so many different chemicals to the ban list, like spinosad, which is Amari listed. If they find it in your hash or your extracts, they're gone. Medibles are subjected to a $500 test, and they can't be over, I think it's 10 milligrams. So when you go into a dispensary in Oregon where marijuana is legal, there's nothing on the shelves to buy but, you know, monocrop bullshit from some giant farm, and no handcrafted edibles, no handcrafted extracts.
Damn, that's rough. Doesn't sound like the place to open up shop, that's for sure.
No, and they've even created something funnier. I have a friend who has a very, very large organization there, and when I saw him last time, I said, man, I'm so proud of you. You know, you got everything going legally, and how are you dumping all that weed in Oregon legally? And he said, I'm not. The system's not in place to do that. So they're using the laws to produce tons of weed, but Oregon doesn't have a system in place to move it fast enough. So again, they've created a cottage market with these bullshit restrictions.
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Oregon. Do you know that Oregon doesn't have a state fire marshal of all the crazy things? Did you know that, Mark? There's no state fire marshal in Oregon, and it's just up to the local fire stations to deal with it. It's crazy because if regulation isn't there present in the backbone of the state, that chaos is going to spread everywhere. I talked to a couple officials in Oregon, and they're all like, yeah, well, we don't have that in our government here. So it's kind of more of a people's government. And I thought, wow, Oregon and Canada, huh? Sister countries.
And I mean, just on a side, we have never been busier. I mean, it kind of makes me laugh, Mark. You remember overgrow the government. Well, they can pass any regulations they want to without getting too technical. I mean, we're sending sheetrock buckets full of seeds out into the world, and I'm no one compared to DNA or Dynasty or Rare Dankness. So, I mean, millions and millions of seeds are being dumped onto growers in America, Canada, overseas. And I mean, I make the joke, the weed nerd army in the weed nerd world, but it's for real now. In California, I don't know anyone that is not growing cannabis in their yard, including Trump voting Republicans and shit, because they want some cash to spend.
I saw some yard signs that said vote Trump that had a pot plant growing behind it.
Damn.
Can I just throw this out there, Subcool? I was looking up the amount of households in California, which is around 12.5 million. And I was thinking, multiply that times 6 legal plants in every single yard, and you have on average between like 70 and 80 million legal cannabis plants growing this year. So I'm also interested to see how they tax and regulate all this. I think reality is going to hit them like a tsunami coming in.
Jeez, just 100 million plants growing in Cali. I just got 4. So is it 1 per household or 4 per?
Six per resident.
Per residence, not per person.
But if you have a medical card, then that's gone. Then you can do whatever you want. The judge has to deal with you.
So this is just 80 million extra plants.
Yeah, my
80 million extra plants.
My medical card says as needed, and my doc wrote down that I juice it, and so I can have You know, I can have 2 or 4 kilos a day.
Well, medical, it doesn't change. We've always, since the Patrick Kelly case, we've been able to have as much as we can basically justify. So there's been no plant limits in California for over a decade. Anyone listening can look up marijuana, California, plant limits, none, or the name Patrick Kelly and see what I'm talking about.
That's what's so wonderful about California, eh, Todd?
Lots to love about this state. I think everybody should move here and throw a party. It's a big cannabis culture. There's lots of room for everybody. Come on out.
Well, not only that, if you think about that amount of cannabis, think of all the ancillary uses and also ancillary sellers from, you know, rolling papers to pipes to, you know, different, you know, vaporizers, you know, Sasquatches, all these different things that are out there for, you know, ancillary ingestion methodologies, even from big lighters to, you know, regular types of situations. It spreads across the economy. It's not something that is just isolated to just cannabis. You have to realize there's, you know, whole worlds that are centered around cannabis that the public are now starting to become aware of.
The donut.
And a mighty big one too. Not a cronut, a big donut.
Yeah, big donut. Right. The 280E donut.
My goodness.
Scoop.
There's a little just to talk about the backstory of things. So there's a local dispensary called Organic Cans run by a woman and staff of people. Real well known, really run well in the right place. And they moved somewhere around 50,000 pounds of outdoor through their warehouse during the harvest season. And that's one dispensary that moved that much weed. I mean, when I first started coming in, I was like, well, this is going to last through the whole year. And it's only been a couple months and they're pretty much out of Emerald Triangle outdoor right now. So
Jesus.
I know.
Emerald Triangle outdoor.
And they even have Emerald Triangle outdoor in branded bags that you can buy an ounce of weed that looks like it should be in Walmart or Target or some shit. It's like grown in the Emerald Triangle, you know, organically sun grown, and it's here. It's like the shit we dreamed of in the old days, you know.
Wild.
Well, the regional declarations have really come forward. They Humboldt, Mendocino realized that they are like Napa, and as Napa is to wine, they want to be associated with cannabis. So they have actually had major movement and action at the county level to make sure there's groups in each county that promote, you know, their county, so that if something says that it's Mendocino grown, it is actually has to be actually Mendocino grown. It can't just be said something and sold as something else. So you're seeing this type of regional self-declarations where they're trying to basically protect the local farmers by trying to promote regional grown cannabis, since the history of, you know, cannabis has necessarily been what it is. But of course, as we know, these are great places to grow and hide pot. It's not necessarily the greatest places to grow pot. So it'll be interesting to see how that transpires for their self-declarations, like Napa is to wine, Mendocino, and Humboldt. I'm not sure if Trinity will follow or Sonoma will follow suit as well, but I anticipate some of these will.
Have you guys heard of my friends Mendo Dope? Do you know about these kids?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you just think about what they're doing. They're a group, they're a rap group that sings about, it's basically schoolhouse rock for growing pot. Yeah. They don't sing about women or guns or shit. They sing about how to grow pot. They just released a 3 DVD called How to Grow Mendo Dope.
Yeah,
they got
grow
some cool breeding a strain for them called Mendo Dope.
Right.
This couldn't have happened 20 years ago. I mean, they are taking the cannabis world by storm on the north and the west coast. But you know, I've been working with Danny Danko to try to get them up on stage, because it's like I told him, I said, dude, they're a rap group that smokes weed, grows 12-pound plants, and they're kind kids. So I just think it's really cool to see what they've done for our movement. They have the street team. So they got street teams all over the world, in Australia and on this place. So they skate, they listen to their music, and they grow weed.
Yeah, no, I like them. They're definitely on point. Their plants are beautiful. I like the whole art, when they did the From the Garden album, you know, like recorded the whole thing in their garden. I thought that was pretty cool little action. And I actually used a couple of their songs in some of my videos. So definitely give shout out to Mendo Dope.
I can't wait to perform some of their methods. I mean, the way they grow an outdoor plant's different than I've ever seen before. So we're going to do 4 in the outdoor garden for charity this year. We're going to do it just like they did it on their video, every step.
Very cool. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Those plants are beautiful. 12-pounders, no doubt.
Yeah, I didn't know how much work went into it. I mean, this is not put pot in ground, watch it grow. They spend 6 hours a day topping and tying it down and trellising, and it's definitely an art form. But anyway, my point was that they're traveling around the U.S. right now singing about growing giant marijuana plants, and they're being embraced by the culture. I think that's a good thing.
Oh, I think so as well. Absolutely. Like you said, maybe not 20 years ago, but for sure today. Talk about exposing yourself. It's us in the DVD. That's us growing that weed.
Right.
We're going to go play our show in Oklahoma now. Show those videos in the back of the screen while we're playing in Oklahoma.
Yeah, they're pretty ballsy.
Shit. Very cool. Well, we got 810 people watching Hash Church right now live. Got the chat going off. Lots of people in there shouting Mendo Dope out and talking about 12 pounds of sweet trichomes. Yes, Mitch Tetro in the house. Just saw him in Jamaica at Bob Marley's birthday there at the 56 Hope Road house. Man, tell you.
Well, why can't you tell? We weren't able to really hear from you about Jamaica as much. So you want to tell us a little bit, or highlights that you missed talking about that you'd like to?
I don't remember what I spoke about, but I can give you the cliff notes quickly, not to go on and on, but maybe like the 4-minute version, which was definitely had a great trip. Landed a few days before Bob's birthday. Had a concert the day before Bob's birthday, which I filmed and put up on Bubble Man's World, which was in Halfway Tree in the bus depot, like basically the transportation center of Halfway Tree in Kingston. And it was like a big concert. Richie Spice was playing, so we went with him, and he got us all through the back and VIP'd up to the backstage and the whole 9 yards. Had his own little booth, as all the artists did, which was pretty amazing. Beanie Man and Sizzla and Stephen Marley and Capleton and John Nine. Literally like a huge host of incredible inspirational artists. Kabaka Pyramid. We're all there. Ended up on stage with the Marleys when they did their one song, you know, always during Bob's birthday, before the birthday, the day after. You'll usually see them at a few venues jumping up on stage and singing a bit. So I got lucky enough to get up on stage for that and filmed some nice footage of Steven and Kamani and Damien all singing. And yeah, it was just a really good evening. Had our the mothership plugged in because Richie had his own booth, so he had power and drinks all set up and couches. So it was pretty awesome. Leading up to Bob's birthday, which we of course had to wake up super early. When they told us the booth setup was at 7 o'clock in the morning, Tony just said that's impossible. There's no way anyone's going to be there at 7 a.m., in which there were plenty of people there at 7 a.m., particularly the Nyabingi drummers that were already on stage drumming. So Bob's birthday was amazing. I would definitely say anyone that has an appreciation for reggae, that has an appreciation for Bob, has appreciation for Jamaica culture, going there for Bob's birthday is like a pilgrimage. Free food and free concert, and just really is like amazing vibes, amazing people. You can go sit with Bongo Herman, one of the original bongo drummers. You can meet his sons, five plus of them walking around, meet his grandchildren. There's a museum there. This year they had speakers, so Tony was able to speak. John Nine spoke about the spiritual uses of cannabis, as well as Dr. Jelani Naya, Dr. Jelani Bongo Naya, from the University of West Indies, who runs a radio show called Ganja Talk. I wish I could shout them out more because they're doing this great radio show, but I'm not sure where you can find it. It's like 93 FM in Jamaica, in Kingston, but I'll figure out a way to find the link for the Ganja Talk radio show. I think it happens once a week, maybe more often, but I'll link it up in the Hash Church group for those of you that are a part of that on Facebook, so you can check it out. I was lucky enough to do a short interview with them last time I was in Kingston, so I don't know if they archive that stuff, but there's always good ones coming around the corner. So that's about it. Amazing time. Filmed a video of Bob's birthday as well, so all the things I just mentioned you'll see on the video. Drone footage flying over Bob's house that shows the whole property in downtown Kingston. It's cool videos. I feel like it was the right vibes to be able to have the camera and be able to share everything without really sort of diluting the quality of the moment. So it's sometimes a sacrifice, but mostly these Jamaican trips, getting comfortable enough with my friends and my crew that we can really pull that camera out anywhere and catch the vibes and be able to share them with you guys on Buckleman's World. So yeah, the drone footage was very cool. Good fun.
Dude, when you put up the drone and the people sat there and watched it go up, the look on people's faces were just like they've never seen it before. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very fun. And just playing with it, like flying around 80 kilometers an hour with those big hawks in the valley there while we were standing
that was cool.
In the ganja field, which all this is also not the hawks, but you can definitely go into the ganja field, fly over the ganja field with the drone, which is pretty cool footage of when it goes way up and you can see the field get more and more expanded and see, wow, that's like a half acre of plants, about 600 plants planted there. And well, hope we'll be back in the next month or less, Johnny B, to do some harvesting.
Yeah, it's going to be epic.
Everyone loves harvest. Go ahead, Etienne.
I see with my little eye, I spy a Dr. Seuss stuffed animal over there. Which
hey!
Someone's...
Yep, I've been off at my youngest daughter's birthday party, and I just got home.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy.
34.
Wow.
34.
Very cool. Very cool. Was it a good birthday party?
Yeah, I mean, everybody sat around and drank, and I sort of just was polite.
So it was one of those, hey? I feel you. This is the alcohol culture, man, that we live in. And as hardcore ganja cannabis warrior dudes, it's almost like the equivalent of being a native person, an indigenous person to the culture.
I wanted to wear a fancy black sort of almost dress shirt with giant marijuana leaves all over it. My wife convinced me to wear a black raw silk one instead.
Well, what I was going to say is it's like the Native American watching as they destroy his land, just standing there with a tear welling up in his eye. That's what I feel like the hardcore ganja warrior feels like when he's at a party with his family members and they're all engaging in the ultimate feeding of the demon to alcohol. It is what it is. I'm just not a big fan of it. I know you're not either. I wish...
Have a good day, you guys. Have a good time. Mark, I'm going to take off for the day. I got a bunch of other stuff.
Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your stories with us, Indra. It's early, it's 11. Well, we got you for we only got you for an hour because you came in an hour late. But an hour of Indra is better than no Indra at all.
Absolutely. Good seeing you, buddy.
Fantastic.
Go see him, Subcool. Go see him, Subcool.
I am going to. I know.
You need to get on that.
Saying that, but he just having a little bit of trouble taking the first step.
Yes, that is
the first step, buddy. And you get here and you get that first good breath. You'll be kicking yourself in the butt about why you didn't go through.
Well, all I feel from you is love, and that's what's important to me. So I promise I will make time to come see you and take advantage of this wonderful offer.
I'm ready, bud.
Okay, man.
Take care.
Peace out, Indra.
But going back to what Todd was saying, because everybody is growing or can or has the ability to now in California, I will say that clone sales started quite robust early and often this year, without a doubt. people are definitely wanting to grow their 6 out exponentially. So it should be going to be a quite epic year upcoming, I hope.
Yep, there's going to be the smell of ganja will be in the air. And I guess you guys have enough water now. Is that what I'm led to believe, that now it's like from like a flood, like from like a desert, it's flooding and shit everywhere? Not everywhere, but
not everywhere, but there's definitely problems and issues around the state where we have such a great amount of water falling in such a short time. Some of these reservoirs have been empty, and now they're not only full, they're overflowing to where we saw a county had the Oroville Dam there potentially looking at collapsing, which it fortunately didn't due to so much water coming in and being impacted. And we're going through another storm right now. So I would anticipate, they said over 60% of the state was out of the drought before this. Definitely these rains that are impacting Southern California and Northern California right now are only going to help. And on top of that, the ice pack is 212% of normal average in the mountains. So that hasn't even started to melt off yet. So we should see, they said also Lake Tahoe is only 3 feet away from cresting. So, I mean, that is an exponential amount of water that has fallen. And what's odd is I heard a whole bunch of people saying, oh, well, Californians deserve it, et cetera, because, you know, they're going against Trump, et cetera. Oroville Dam is in Trump territory, and that county voted for Trump. So just to dispel that bullshit that's out there, that's not the case at all. It's a Trump county, and we wish everybody their safety. They've lifted the actual fear of collapse of that dam and have done to reinforce it as best as possible, as well as to release as much as water out of it as possible so that they could at least prepare for the amount of water that's coming, because supposedly the storm that's transpiring as we speak is one of the largest storms that we're going to have this year, and we're already at capacity at a lot of these reservoirs, which is good for the future. But for the immediate, we see a lot of these places that had burned down and had forest fires, having major mudslides, and land issues become exponentially larger here in California because of the amount of rain that's falling in such a short amount of time. And such as in Southern California right now, I mean, it's caused major issues and washouts because they're not used to that amount of water falling in that short amount of time.
So do you think the answer would be to grow as much cannabis as possible to absorb up that water and stop the flooding? Is that maybe add a 0 or 2 zeros to the 6 plants that you guys are allowed?
No, the real secret is if everybody would make 1,000 times as much water hash, all the extra water would be gone.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous. I love it.
You know, and I live two things I'll address. So one is I live up in the mountains of Northern California, and the water stopped soaking in a long time ago. The land simply cannot take any more water. And about 15 miles away from me, there's 200 homes that have been evacuated. They've been red tagged because California thinks the houses are going to fall off the mountain. But from an aspect of a grower, we have several water filters here on the land because our well water looks pretty nasty coming out the ground. But since this influx of all this water and our wells are full, my garden has never looked happier. All the fresh water, it really likes fresh water instead of nasty magnesium filled, well water. So we're almost using fresh rainwater now.
That's the way to do it. I have one of my neighbors here has this artesian spring water that comes up out of the mountain. And I guess he's just a crazy Kiwi guy that basically decided I'm going to build, he took this thick membrane and built this huge pool. And like, it's huge, you could swim in this thing, but instead he raises rainbow trout. And the water comes in on one end and he's got a little piece on the other end where it just goes out. And this guy's got like 20, 30 beautiful rainbow trout in this thing at any given time. So he's even attracted a few bears to do the old fish in a barrel and eat the fish right out of there on occasion. But this is like right in my neighborhood in this guy's backyard. Can you imagine? Cool. Ingenuity with seriously one little artesian spring bubbling up that he just sort of dug out and created into this whole. I literally said, I've never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable. I'll try to get pictures and put it in the Hash Church group because it's really something to behold. That fresh water can really do some good things with it. Well, yeah.
Bong rip.
Another one of those. Hey, I need a water.
Or a bone rip. Bone rip.
Bone rip. You guys, I'm going to take off for the day. I'm going to go see my dad. Haven't seen him in a while. And peace and love, everybody. Have a fantastic one. We'll see you again soon.
Say hi to your dad there, Johnny B.
Peace, guys.
Peace out, brother.
Yeah, we're going to peace out as well, too, guys.
Thanks for coming in, Jeff.
All right.
Much love. Have a great day.
All right. See you again next time.
So, Bubble Man, I'm getting blasts in the past. Starting to get emails asking me about the watermelon Astro Boy pheno. I guess everybody thinks I created or have it, and I guess you're the one that actually coined that phenotype of watermelon one. So
I didn't actually coin that phenotype. I think it was someone in Winnipeg that coined the pheno, and when I got it, it was called Watermelon Astro Boy. It was definitely via Bad Boy, but not Bad Boy. It was someone else that he gave it to or something. But I sure like it. I had cuts of it for the longest time. And
what is the history of the genetics?
Well, that was an accident, I believe. Wasn't it an accident, Sub?
Yeah, it was an accident. So it's got Apollo in it.
Yeah.
Pretty much a bag seed that everybody grew out and thought it was impressive. So,
well, it kind of was. It has really nice. Well, it has a very unique terpene expression right off the bat. That's killer. But it also has like a really nice calyx structure that builds these big, fat, beautiful buds. It's got beautiful resin production. So I'm a fan of all of those things. And it's just a pleasant plant to grow. It's not too susceptible to mildews or bugs, but definitely if it's in a room that has those things, they will eventually go onto that plant, but not first. So I liked it.
That was a kind of a collab with Brothers Grimm. That's Cindy 99 and Ortega in it. But I'm happy now that with all the competition and everything in the industry, me and Duke Diamond and Soul are really good friends. So I wouldn't say we're doing collaboration work, but for instance, I sent them my 20-year-old Apollo 13 clone. They're sending me the Joe Pine Romulan. So it's just nice to be able to openly share with someone like Brothers Grimm, and it's nice to have them back on the scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I suspected when he came back on the scene that we were going to hear more about it and see some new things from them for sure. Or some of the old things.
And Duke is this guy is a beast with knowledge of soil, no-till, just everything. He's got me using things I've never even heard before, like coconut aloe powder and aminos, and he makes this tonic that if you've got a really old mom or dad, like a 20-year-old mom or dad, he sent me this recipe for this tonic that you feed your plants, and it's not really food, and it kind of repairs the plant structure. And I have 2 plants that were whirling, and we gave the tonic 3 times, and it took it right out of it. So this guy really seems to understand micronutrient intake of organics. So it's really fun to work with him and have him teach me stuff that I've never heard before.
Sure, that's a vault of information to learn.
I would really like to find out that mixture, if I could, that recipe one day and share it with the world. Maybe
yeah, no problem. Actually, if you give me 2 minutes, I'll bring it right back. Is that cool?
Thank you very much.
No, Darren requires much faster speed. If you take more than a minute, don't even bother bringing it back. 60 seconds, bro. Boom. That's what I'm saying. Nice buds there on your, what is that, like an NL, like a big old Northern Lights or something on the screen behind you?
That is Brooklyn Sunrise, Night Queen, Colorado Cookies, and Frisian Duck. They're pictures I got from some of the conferences that we've gone to and all that kind of stuff, and just some good swag.
Interesting.
Balls, right? For the den. You hear that squeak? And that's my Dabs being crazy.
Yeah, we hear the squeaking.
How is the little Dabster?
She's crazy, man. She's awesome. Dabs, come. Come here.
Hey, Darren, why didn't you tell the story that you were unable to tell last week? You know, your story that you were psyched to tell everybody that.
Oh my God! Holy shit!
Right?
Here's a
this is pretty good.
This will take some silence away. There's a young lady that I know that I met probably 2 years ago, and we became really good friends. You know, we just see her at all the events and everything. We take time out to chit chat and have good conversations. And, you know, a good connection. And, you know, I was thinking to myself, you know, it'd be nice to take this girl on a date sometime or whatever. I offered her a bike ride on my motorbike last summer, and she was in for it, but we just we never ended up clicking or going out or doing that in that way. We just always seen each other and always connected well. Well, my sister that I discovered that I was adopted when I was young, so I didn't meet my blood family until about 5 years ago. And my sister sent me a text message the other night, last Friday, about a picture of this girl having this article in the news on the web, and saying, "Yeah, interesting. This article. This girl is a cousin of ours, and she's never met her." Well, this girl, her name is Stormy Entertainment on Instagram. Stormy.
Stormy Ent.
Yeah, she's my cousin. We're blood cousins. Like, my mother moved up here when she was pregnant with me before I was given up for adoption, and stayed with that girl's grandmother and mother when she was a child. And like, there's a really close connection there and everything. And we never had a clue. And she's my cousin. So yeah, I can't wait to go down and see her when I go down there to Van next time and have some quality time. She's a total wicked chick. Like, loves burning. The first time I met her, she gave me a monster dab at one of I think it was the Forum in the basement. Monster dab. They asked if I was a fish. I didn't even breathe type thing. I took such a huge dab, I guess. That was the first interaction. And then every single event that we went to, we always hung out. So yeah, it's a small fucking world out there, man. And the universe works in weird, mysterious ways. But it seems to work in our favor if we let it. Just got to accept it type thing. It's not a religious thing for me, but I really trust the universe because it's treated me pretty fucking good. Look what it did. And that's the weed industry that brought me and her together too. It's the weed world that made us become friends.
But it's a big world out there getting smaller all the time.
What a fucking trip, eh? Bong rip to that. I'll do that.
Bong rip.
And I'm muting because Dobbs is killing her toy. So I'll listen to you.
All right, so here we go, Darren. Step one is we're going to top dress the plant with a half a cup of neem cake. And then we're also going to top dress the plants with 1 cup of insect frass. And then we're going to mix up the following. Per gallon, 10 milliliters of organic CalMag, 1 tablespoon of Brer Rabbit molasses, 1 tablespoon of soy amino, and you can get that from buildthesoil.com. I had to look it up. And a 1/4 teaspoon of coconut powder, and then a little bit of azo. So you mix all that up and you pour it on top of the neem cake and the frass. And again, it won't burn the plants because there's not really a lot of food in there, but it's worked wonders on some of our 20-year-old females. So I definitely suggest people give it a shot if they got an old sick plant.
Yeah, and I would just mention that was at the 2-hour mark. For those of you that want to go back and listen to that recipe, it was right at the like a 1:58 or 1:57 to about 2 hours. So,
and I'll toss it up on my Instagram, Weed Nerd 420.
Yeah, let them know it's at the 2-hour mark where you mentioned the recipe.
Cool, thank you, brother.
It's always a bonus.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
No problem, my friend. Well, we got to help each other.
Well, here's the thing, though. Did you tell him Celsius or Fahrenheit? Fuck, Darren. Oh man, that sucks. But not really. It's still made for a very unique video, dude. I've never seen rosin come out like that.
Puking rosin.
When you said the whole foot on the thing was covered in rosin.
Oh, like it's like this long. It's a tripod to my fucking stand. It was covered. What was your Instagram again? Subcool?
The Weed Nerd 420.
The Weed Nerd 420.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, that rosin was heavy. I can't wait to get down there and do it on a low temperature.
Absolutely. Cake it up at 180.
Yeah. I'll have to let it sit for a few hours to get it that hot. On it first.
No, I meant Fahrenheit. But yes. Well, let's see some hash. All right, well, let's see some hash. Let's open this GB. I got to...
Hey, then this is also a great time to ask everybody who's watching, since there's, 806 of you out there, what are you puffing on right now? What are you puffing tough on, everybody? Lister Genetic.
Puffing on Toffins. So let me get this GB open. Holy, did he seal these good. It's like basically I have to take this whole sticker off. Is that what's happening here? Sticker is really closing this up good. What's everyone saying? Oh shit, there's a whole bunch of replies there.
Oh, it's fun to watch. Lots
It blows up. Blows up.
GG4, lots of cushes. A lot of
All right,
lemon.
so I'm opening this one right now.
Oh, somebody's smoking Blue Dream. Sorry, bud.
Sorry. So there's a little bit of that 6-star. Let's see if we can get it focusing. Weird.
I have to say, I can't get mine to focus ever either.
Mine focuses sometimes. It's weird that it's just not. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Yeah, it focused on the label. Yeah, wow, that looks nice.
He's nice. He's very nice. It's just damn
I got the wrong setup here.
I hate when it's in this parchment, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Was that parchment that was in there?
Yeah, it's like in parchment. Beautiful, though. Wow. Gotta get it over the parchment. I'm not a big fan of like bubble or dry sift in parchment. I'm not gonna lie.
Why is that? State for the people so they know why.
It doesn't move nice. You know, the way it is for oil, when it cracks and bends and moves, it's popping and it's like, holy shit, this stuff is like, you don't want to be losing any of it like that.
So it tends to pop everywhere is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's my main complaint for certain. Just seems to be a little too poppy for my likes. Let's see what we got here. All right, finally getting my bong rip here. Boom.
So, Sub, that was what you put on sick plants. How would you prep your soil for outdoor, say, you know, people, of course, are probably inside vegging their plants right now to put them outside in some veg. How would you prep your soil, or how would you suggest they prep their soil for getting ready for their plants to go into the ground?
Well, you know, the one thing that hopefully they've been doing is maybe taking a little lesson from the no-till guys and planting some crimson clover and some good coverage to get their soil done. One of the things that this is not what you asked me, but I just learned this really importantly. So if you got your plants indoors, you can, two things you want to do is match light cycles. So you want to lower the amount of time on your lights as the season gets closer, so that you can kind of match the outdoors. So you don't want to obviously put a plant that's in 18 hours of light outside and 14 hours of light because it may bud. But what we do right now is we've got a giant mountain outside of our the soil bags, And we've amended with kelp, alfalfa meal, worm castings, blood meal, bone meal, and bat guano. And then we cover it with a giant tarp after we put our azos and our mycos in. And we basically just let it, it's 50 degrees outside right now. It's wet. And I just checked it. And I have a web going across that mountain of dirt that it looks like a piece of artwork. So that's really important for us, is to make sure we get a good soil web on our base soil before we stick it in those pots.
And cue for dab. He's dabbing, side camera. Exhale.
So basically, what he's saying is, it's also good to prep in the fall. Like your soil should already be ready. But if somebody didn't prep their soil and they're just starting now, what would your suggestions be?
Oh, I would, either buy a high-powered soil like Soil King, or make up a batch of super soil. I mean, that's what we do every year. People are making it by the thousands of pounds. Guys have cement mixers and shit. They're making it with a scale that I've never made it with. But the recipe's online. I'm not going to repeat it right now, but it's 9 bags of premium soil minus bugs, hopefully. And then amendments like worm castings, bat guano, bone meal, fish bone meal, azomite, and you can just type Subcool Super Soil on the Google, and the recipe will pop up. And
I'll put it in the Hash Church group.
There you go, and it's used worldwide. The concept of it is, we know the recipe works, so if you make it like we do, then it's going to work for you, and it just eliminates the 40 bottles of advanced nutrients. I have 3 bottles in my grow room, some Bloom, some Grow, and some CalMag. And that's really all that goes on the plants, except for this new Duke's tonic. I think a lot of fledgling growers put way too much stuff in their plants, and they burn the shit out of them. They're reading all this stuff online, and they're buying every single bottle that's for sale. And sometimes they're toxifying the plant. So to answer your question, I like to prepare my soil a little earlier than now, mix up a giant pile of it in a tarp, and amend it with dry amendments. And then we used to say the word cook, Mark, but I've come up with a better word. We let it ferment and become one with itself. Because it's not, we had idiots taking it and put it in ovens and microwaves and stuff. So cook was a really stupid word for me to use. So it takes 6 to 8 weeks for it to ferment and for everything to break down where it can be used.
Very good, very good. I remember years ago when Breeder Steve was doing a super soil mix, and his logo, I thought it was just a great fucking logo or motto, whatever you want to call it, was, so your buds taste like mine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's duplicated. It's duplicated everywhere. So anyway, but I will say that if you don't want to do that, there's several companies out there that have basically taken my base super soil recipe, and they're manufactured on a massive scale, and they're testing it. Super soil, the way I make it's just kind of, we wing it and it works. But like Soil King has a recipe, you can look it up online. It mimics super soil, and you can just go buy it. So for people who don't want to whip out a tarp and get their back sore and everything, that option wasn't available in the old days.
They still
now
have
it is.
That's great.
Yeah.
So here's a question for Mark Scaldone. Nano emulsions causing CBD to be absorbed before metabolized. Ask Mark about nano emulsions causing CBD to be absorbed before metabolized. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, cool. So this was posted earlier on the Facebook page, the Hash Church Facebook page, and it was kind of the pointing out in CBD Project CBD's article, and they talk about the Zynerba study being not, scientifically valid for a few different reasons, and there was discussion there again about the implications that has on whether or not somehow CBD is just escaping this acid catalyzed chemistry that it's prone to do. And so, again, I think there was a misconception out there, and I don't know if the Project CBD article really addresses it from that angle, which is that thermodynamics are such that when CBD is treated in a low acidic environment, it undergoes this chemistry, right? And part of it gets converted to THC, but part of it gets converted to other. There's 4 different molecules it converts into. And so, yeah, the notion was, well, is this happening in the gut? And does that explain why somebody who's, say, on a high CBD medication might piss positive for THC, or someone might be feeling the effects? And so I guess the point is that in the Russo paper, and again, there was no original research in there other than pointing out other work that had been done to measure plasma levels of the cannabinoids, and they did not see an elevated level of THC in those patients. And I think that was sort of, Ethan was just sort of pointing that out in his article, and the Project CBD article just kind of mentioned that. Well, again, I guess when we were talking with Martin Lee on Hash Church a couple episodes ago, this came up, and we didn't really have enough opportunity to have a fruitful discussion about it, which is that, you know, if CBD in a test tube, not in a human, but in a test tube under acidic conditions converts, the question is what's different about the human body test tube that would make it not do that, right? So that's a discussion. That's the real point of what we were thinking about. And so after Hash Church was over, we stayed on and kind of had a little bit of a chat after you dropped off, Marcus. And we talked about perhaps what's happening. So Ryan and I, this was Chimera, is that in the oil phase, so like if it was in like a capsule, and that capsule is dissolved in the stomach, so there's no chance for absorption in like a sublingual drop or like a lozenge. There's no chance for oral absorption into the bloodstream. It can only be absorbed after the capsule is torn apart by the acid of the stomach. So the notion is perhaps what's happening at that point, since CBD is not water soluble, CBD will be dispersed in some kind of oil vehicle, coconut oil or some type of carrier oil. Does the carrier oil itself, when that capsule is dissolved, essentially create a oil phase that just renders the CBD protected from the low acidic environment of the continuous aqueous phase in the stomach? Now, at some point, that's going to completely break down. And I guess this is Russo's point, was there was SDS. SDS is sodium dodecyl-sulfate, which essentially is soap. There was soap in the Zenerba study that would basically emulsify the CBD oil phase with the water phase, and that way the acid could come in contact with the CBD, and that's why the Zenerba result was, yes, Zenerba is showing that their data show that it was converted to THC, but they threw this artificial soap in there, right? This stuff that's basically going to emulsify the oil phase and the water phase. So the notion is that perhaps what's happening is that the triglyceride oil phase holds on to the CBD, and it's quicker to be absorbed than degraded by the low acidic environment of the stomach. And again, that could just be one mechanism on how it's not being converted to THC and the 3 other compounds that it gets converted to. But I'll go back to the original question. So there was a post by a Russian fellow named Alex who has done some work on looking to see what makes a cannabis-based emulsion stable. And so he was looking at microemulsions and nanoemulsions. And the difference between a microemulsion and a nanoemulsion is the size of the emulsified particle. So oh God, how do I explain this? So butter, right, is an emulsion, right? Dairy butter, right? When it's solid, it's a water in oil emulsion. It's mostly oil, but there's a little bit of water in there. And when it cools down, those particles scatter light, which is why you can't see through butter. Okay, so the point is that all of these things can be emulsified together, and it's all a matter of time. And when the CBD is emulsified, as it was in the Zynerba study and as it was in Professor Watanabe's study, Professor Watanabe uses tween 80, and the Zynerba study uses SDS, which is sodium dodecyl sulfate, which is soap. Those emulsified CBDs underwent this conversion. Now, that's not being observed clinically. Why is that not happening? And so we're just trying to explain maybe the physical phenomena. That's the reason why we're not observing THC and its metabolites in very high levels. So that's basically my explanation on that. I don't know if that answers the question, Marcus.
I think you could do a whole friggin' hash church on this potential topic. With like,
well, and I don't know if you remember, but Tony and I had this discussion because in Tony's, some of his formulations, they're formulated in a medium chain triglyceride, which really, let's face it, folks, that's just coconut oil. It's fractionated coconut oil.
yeah.
And so these things, again, I think what's observed clinically is when you formulate activated distillate into those types of oils, it does enhance the bio delivery of these things in some way that's probably has to do with absorption. So basically the oil is being absorbed and the cannabinoids, which are kind of like passengers on that oil train, are kind of being absorbed too. Right. So it's kind of like a vehicle.
Right. It's
Yeah.
It's the doorway in. It's saying, come on in this with me, and you're coming into the party. And that's always kind of been.
Right. So like with the prana formulation, so those prana are pills, right? And they're pills that have the various cannabinoids in different ratios in the oils. And so when patients take those pills now, what happens is those pills are dissolved in this low acidic environment of the stomach. And the question is well, what happens to that terpene profile in the body of those patients? Is it as dialed in as Tony likes to think with his prana 1, prana 2, prana 3, or does it just statistically and thermodynamically go to this god-awful mix of, not god-awful, but this mix of cannabinoids that are basically then sort of this plume of cannabinoids that are going through the patient's system? It's not single molecule like Martin said. He likes to think that CBD single molecule, yeah, it gets there. But you know what? CBD is converted into a host of other molecules in the liver, and that's well documented. So all of these things definitely impact the bioavailability, and how bioavailable these things are definitely has a lot to do with not just the person's diet, but the person's own chemistry and our own metabolic, as Todd, I think, has mentioned before, it's not just cannabis, but it's a whole lifestyle. It's being able to really fortify your body with all the essential amino acids and everything that it needs to be able to live healthy and maintain homeostasis. While the cannabinoids are important for that, all the other ingredients that you take in, polyunsaturated fats, carbohydrates, everything, all the protein is all part of the picture. And certainly you could think just in a regular diet that if you have a very fatty diet and you're depositing a lot of fat in your CBD and your cannabinoids are going to saturate those fats. And so wherever those fats end up going, you're going to be delivering cannabinoids as well.
Very cool.
Makes sense, right?
Yep, indeed it does. Indeed it does. Yeah, a lot of people kind of miss that in the cannabis world sometimes, that they're just like, I eat a terrible diet. I have a terrible, I'm just not taking care of myself in any way, shape, or form, but I use cannabis, so everything's going to be okay. Definitely things will be better, but not really probably okay. It's good to pay attention to the diet, the food that you're putting into your body, particularly if you're obsessed with organic cannabis. And
I think that's why the edibles, people get so fucked up on edibles, because when you put those in your stomach, all kinds of shit happens. And now you've made a lot of polar compounds, polar cannabinoids that are going to saturate your system, but not necessarily give you the psychological activity that you maybe are looking for other than going to sleep.
Right. Welcome back, Skunk Man Sam. Sam to the skunk, to the man. Having some technical difficulties. There he is. There he is. I see his little red hat. There we go. Now we've got the boa. That's it right there. Skunk Man Sam representing. Always with that same look on his face, though. It's amazing. Guy must be so high.
It's like permagrin or something.
For real. And you know what's the weirdest thing is? You don't even see him take the bong rip. You just hear it in the background.
Never exhales. That's
Never.
what's amazing. I've never seen Sam exhale.
Jesus. For real. For real. Yes, we're having fun here in the last half hour of today's Hash Church. We got 25 minutes to chat about all things cannabis and some things maybe not cannabis. It really depends on which direction we go in. I feel pretty good that Hash Church worked today, and that we were able to hear each other and there was no technical difficulties.
You were dead on today. I hadn't seen you skip a beat in any way, shape, or form. You were not choppy, so it looks like you did nail it.
Yeah, I figured it out. Trust me on that one. I just can't believe how long it took me to figure it out. That was really following troubleshooting is like following breadcrumbs backwards, and you can't skip any, and you really sometimes have to go right back to the beginning. It's incredible.
Well, and it created a dialogue, at least amongst a couple of us panelists and a few of the people in the chat room on, what is Hash Church and what does it mean? Like you were kind of saying, Mark, that Joni Mitchell song, you don't know what you got till it's gone. You almost have to make people sweat that it was going to be going away for people to actually realize, that, hey, they'll actually like doing this every Sunday, and we're kind of privileged to not just have each other, but to have this audience and this venue to share these ideas and these stories and how to keep it relevant, how to keep it so we, live up to, like we were thinking, yeah, maybe Mark wants to end Hash Church because the same way that, Seinfeld, kind of went out while they were on top, while they were still relevant. They were a great TV show. They were killing it in the ratings. They couldn't do anything wrong. And they're like, oh, we're going to end the show now. What? End the show? You can't end the show. Oh my God. Right. So it's almost like, Hash Church, we did some incredible stuff, man. There's been some incredible stories, and you almost think about it like the way when Trey broke up Fish back in 2004, this feeling of, well, we've it's kind of run its course. It's like we don't want to be a caricature of ourselves, just be here oh yeah, just because it's we're here. We want to actually be contributing and actually be a dialogue between the people who are in chat and everything that happens in the week between. And I know that Sam's idea was well, we should do it every other week, and it's yeah, that would kind of be cool too, but we'd probably lose some people because I think a certain number of people, Marcus, them, they religiously pun intended, watch every week. It's part of their routine. It's if we just went away, there would be a total void. There'd be some other, if we went to every other week, there would be a new internet show every other week that we're not on, right? Yeah. To grab that audience.
That's cool though.
It would be called Hash Church every other week.
Yeah, it would be called the Unhash Church, or two sinusoidal waves, out of period with each other. But I guess the point is that, first of all, Marcus, I think we had a nice talk with Darren after we went off last week, because I know that you guys see each other. You guys have a lot of FaceTime. And part of it was for us to reach out to him and tell him how much we truly love what you've done here. I mean, it's just totally cool. I mean, here I am in a little remote corner of Pennsylvania, right? In Pennsylvania, not even part of the hash scene, or the big, bigger part of what's going on in the US. but still there's people across this country and across this globe. And I know when I go to fish shows and I get some dude with a twisted hat giving me high fives saying, hey, Dr. Mark, Hash Church, oh, blah, 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 blah. You know, they really do appreciate what we do every week. And even though sometimes it's not scripted and it might seem like lots of cricket moments and it gets lame and your internet connection's not what it should be and all that stuff, the good moments way outweigh all those times when it gets a little problematic. It might seem like it's a little bit hard to keep this thing going, but I think we need to keep it going. I think it needs to be every week. And it's something that I think people have this natural connection to. It's hard to describe because it's something that's been very synthetic, and I don't think you could reproduce what's been done. It's just natural and organic. And now that you have this, it would be kind of like a shame to just kind of like let it fizzle away. It would be like one of these things that's a once in a lifetime thing, that to build this, just to like let it not continue and be its organic self. So I challenged the other panelists when we talked about this to, you know, really take the level, bring the content back. It was great having Natasha. It was a great addition. She brings great speakers in, very relevant stories. They don't want to just hear from us experts. They want to hear from mothers and patients and advocates. And Subcool, you have such a cool story on so many levels that these are the kinds of people that, you know, I think really make these, what we do, very, very unique and a very unique offering in the space.
Yeah, well, no, I definitely feel that, dude. It's definitely been magical being able to get all these people together, get some of the incredible guests that a lot of you guys have brought in, and have an audience of people that want to hear what we have to say. Obviously, who doesn't want to be a part of something like that? It just 4+ weeks got on me hard of not being able to be a part of it and just be like, what the heck? I can't even be in Hash Church anymore. This is crazy. So I'm glad my internet's working today. Feels like I'm back in the game. Feels pretty good. And yeah, I think it's a great idea for all the panelists to up their game, bring us the good content, bring us, you know, like things like Subcool dropping recipes on us. That's killer information that the people who are watching want to hear, want to know. And it can be difficult sometimes to share all the things that we're doing without promoting the things that we're doing. You know, we don't want to become shameless pluggers of our products and of the things that we sell. At the same time, you know, it's probably important to mention them here and there if the discussion is our discussion.
You know, serendipitously, if it ends up doing that, it'll stand in the free market on its own legs. And if these are quality products, whether be they Blue River or United Cannabis or whatever, any of the companies that any of us are involved in, it'll stand on its own merits, right? Crappy product, you can't take crappy product and make it more than it is. But the great thing is just to have this as a weekly venue that I think people actually, you know, quite very much depend on for entertainment value as well as knowledge. So yeah, the field trips, Marcus, they love, you know, like when we went through Remo's grow, and remember when we had Soil Grown on and he was pressing, you know, rosin. It's always great to have Sam, when you could get Rob to come tell us about his worldly travels. I mean, people love that. And yeah, all the other special guests that we've had on, it does make an impact because it creates, again, a volume of information out there that uniquely people have to go to hour 2 on Hash Church on this episode to hear this, you know, mix, right?
Yeah. Tony Baloney just had a good idea about a Q&A church, and it kind of gave me this spark of, we could put some questions out, you know, like what, kind of ask people to put questions in, give an email or a Facebook page or whatever, a variety the next 5-6 days, and maybe come up with a 2-3 hour Q&A. But sometimes they're great questions that really lead to incredible dialogue, and I would not be opposed to that. I see the audience that is watching as a huge part of it, and I constantly go there for you know, for information, to see what is being talked about and to see what is going on.
The other thing we could do is make a list of prospective guests we'd like to see on the show, and then screen that down and find ones who might want to come on the show.
Absolutely, that's helpful for sure. I'm not, Todd's been immensely helpful in that, but it would be great if everyone put their feelers out to their connections and we made these lists and then we contacted these people and we booked them.
We could have a thread in Hash Church where we say, please make suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm down for all of that. I definitely.
My number one suggestion would be Raphael Meshulam, but he doesn't favor recreational, so I have my doubts.
I bet you if Meshulam came on, we could probably get Russo on the same episode.
That is probably true. Probably Rob would come on again too.
Yeah, of course. There you go. So there we go. We've got some things to work on.
We can try getting Kevin on. I know that Kevin McKernan is in contact with those folks, so we could start with Kevin.
I sent him the link this morning, as I did Natasha and a host of other people I sent the link out to today. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus, think about it. When we had that discussion between Ryan and Mowgli and Kevin, I mean, I don't know that discussion has occurred anywhere else. And it was extremely important because we're talking about the genetics and patenting. I mean, this is an extremely, relevant discussion on what's going on in the cannabis industry today. And, your forum provided the venue for that discussion.
Who
That's pretty fucking cool.
Included would be John Page and Nolan Green in Colorado.
Sure.
Yep.
I also like the idea of getting Hepburn, Dr. Hepburn, a local doctor in Canada here who's gone around trying to educate some of the doctors. So he's someone I definitely want to get on Hash Church and have a discussion with. I also have been wanting to get Donald Abrams and Clint Werner on for some time as well. I was going back and forth with them and just sort of lost the connection there, but maybe we'll try and put some of these would be great dialogues, great conversations.
Remind me to try that. Donald Abrams is a close friend.
Yeah, Dr. Abrams would be great. He has been one of the pioneers in research here in the United States, or reintroduction of research here into the United States. And he's just a wealth of knowledge and also an amazing person.
And then Shona Rhonda as well, the Crohn's patient who used cannabis. They tried to take her 11-year-old son away. I've invited her on as well. We've had some technical difficulties ourselves, but she's ready to come on. And I'd also like to invite Dr. Bob back on. I'd love to get Dr. David Allen on the show. It'd be great to get a whole bunch of different people on the show. It's just amazing how fast the 7 days go when we push stop on a church on Sunday. It's like, boom, it's Saturday night before you know it.
Oh, and then next thing you know, you schedule them and you put out the information that you're going to be scheduling them. And then come Sunday, insert whatever here. And
every time.
Right. It's almost comical.
I know. I was like.
But that's the beauty of the show, though. We have so many forthright experts that can speak on so many different ways and so many different knowledge points that for me, I'm always learning. That's what I love about Hash Church. I'm fortunately able to teach, but more than anything, I love absorbing and learning because there is no place like this. I've never found, except when I'm sitting around with people like you. And when we're sitting around, we're usually getting high. We're not even talking shop or, business, because that's what we do every single day. But it has an impact on all of our realities and what we do every single day. So because it's not just a thought for us, it is literally a lifestyle. It is supporting our families and our existence for decades. So it's not like we're just fly-by-nighters in any way, shape, or form. But the caliber of expertise that I've been exposed to here is par excellence, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. And I'm always thankful. So keep it going if we can. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely. I'm on with that. Hopefully we'll be doing one from Barcelona, Spain in the upcoming weeks when we end up there for Spanibus. I think we're there for at least one Sunday, maybe two. We'll make sure we have a solid internet connection wherever we do choose to do it. And that will be the top focus of getting Hash Church done while we're away there. Always a bummer when the internet doesn't work good. I swear I wish I had military internet that I carried around in a little Pelican case that was just like sat. I'd just be like, yes, I've got the bomb internet wherever I go. This is how committed I am to Hash Church. I'm going to look into it. At least for Jamaica. Poor man can't go to the States. How is he going to get on JRE? JRE? I don't know. I don't think I'm going on JRE. I never got invited. There's a whole conversation going on. I don't even know what they're talking about, but
Marcus, how weird is it that I can't go there and you can't come here? We'd have to stand on the border and shake hands or some stupid shit.
I'm sure we'd each get a knee in the back, even if we did such a thing. They got a big space between the border. It's not just like 2 feet.
Well, that's the great thing about Barcelona. Then we can all go to a neutral country and hang out together.
Oh, I know. I'm looking forward to Barcelona and seeing everyone that's coming. I think it's going to be an awesome event. Spanibus always is pretty key. Lorenzo Nerd Creations has put an enormous of time and energy into the Masters Cup. So look into that if you're in Barcelona from the 6th to the 11th. He's got these beautiful like Super Bowl rings as the prizes for the Master Cup.
Also, too, they're also having the Secret Cups in Barcelona while we're there.
That's correct. That was going to be the next one I was going to give shout outs to. The Secret Cup is also happening. He's already been posting information, looking for people to be a part of. I think it's the registration's over soon for people entering. But and then, of course, a potential Legends of Hash will maybe happen there in Barcelona. It's always a little bit lower key. We don't really advertise or talk about it, but keep your minds and eyes open. If you're making some hash, we want to see your 6-star in Barcelona at the booth for Medical Seeds. I'll be there, I'm sure. Skunkman Sam will be around. Tony V will be at the booth. We got the Sasquatch crew coming and working the booth. We're actually going to have that little booth packed full of pretty cool people, so definitely come by. Show us your buds. They'll squish it. Show us your hash. Maybe you'll get a ticket to the Legends of Hash. That's how it goes. There's no promises for that particular party, and anyone can attend because there's no promises for that particular party. Doesn't matter who you are in the community, you'll earn your ticket.
Best way to get into it is to have something truly superior. 5, but even better would be 10 grams so that it can be tried by everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. We really need to figure out getting one of Sid's Hubbly Bubblies down there. We need to invite Sid to come down to Barcelona because I'm telling you, the Hubbly Bubbly experience, in my opinion, is an important part of the Legends of Hash experience.
There must be somebody with the Hubbly Bubbly in Barcelona. I mean,
all right,
be.
Here we are. Those of you, whoever you are in Spain, if you're coming to Barcelona and you're bringing an old Hubbly Bubbly in beautiful shape that we can smoke at the party, I definitely have a ticket for you. So hit me up.
Yeah, the only trouble with Hubbly Bubblies is you'd have to clean them really, really well before you can transport them between countries.
Absolutely. Well, that's like any pipe.
Yeah, but with glass, it's a lot easier than a Hubbly Bubbly.
Yeah, I hear you. Glass is still a huge pain in the ass, though, especially when you're in Jamaica and you're puffing tough with like fiends. I mean, fiends. These motherfuckers don't bring bongs and they fiend on the one pipe. It's like, imagine just like 20 of you, Etienne, smoking on your pipe. Imagine what your pipe looks like in 2 or 3 days. I have to clean my pipe in Jamaica every other day or every day to keep it from just getting completely psychotically dirty to the point where I can't bring it home. I'm like, oh my God.
Just remember what is always said. Cleanliness is next to stoneliness.
All right. Is that how it goes? You've changed that over the years a few times, haven't you? I like it. I like it indeed. Well, shit, we rocked 3 solid hours, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 3 solid hours of Hash Church today. I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'll end it with a nice rip. I would do that. I would do that. If everyone else wants to grab their chalice, their joint, their bong, whatever it is you're puffing on. We're going to say give thanks for Hash Church. Give thanks to Mark Scaldone for putting out the honest words. You know, it is a good thing here that we all have created. I don't pretend to think that I've created it by any means. I think that all of you have been as integral of a part of it as me, as well as the audience for that matter. Every person is really what makes Hash Church, because I mean, I guarantee you the panelists probably wouldn't still be coming here every Sunday if 3 people were coming in every day. It just might not feel like the sacrifice of the Sunday morning, waking up early, not being with the family. It's you guys, 700, 800, 900 people in the 10,000 that follow after each week that definitely make it easier to come back to. You got an audience. It's like, okay, let's create a dialogue. We can have a conversation. We got people out in the world, all over the fucking place. And while I take this bong rep, I would love for you to show me where you're at right now. What country? What city? Let us know. From Lions Bay, British Columbia.
And a big shout out for Marcus, because he is the hub of Hash Church. I mean, all of the other panelists are spokes that hold the whole thing together. And the audience is the wheel that makes it all cruise down the road. But, you know, Marcus is the hub, and a big shout out for Marcus for all you've done.
Give thanks, Sam.
Absolutely. Nothing but love and appreciation and respect. Thanks to all the panelists, but especially to you, Marcus. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Well, I'm going to keep on keeping on and try and keep us getting here every week. It's beautiful to see all the people. Tons of different places shooting up, from Ontario to Joshua Tree to Michigan to Quebec to Manitoba to California, Denmark, Scotland, SoCal, Adelaide, South Australia, Northern Ireland, Vermont, whole bunch of places.
To recreate this reach would be impossible. You can if you were to stop Hash Church today and try to start it up again tomorrow under some other moniker, would almost be impossible. So it's almost like I kind of feel it's a little bit like Fish. It's like they didn't know that they were going to become famous. They thought they were just going to be some quirky band that nobody else was going to see. A lot of people got into them, and now they built this huge big thing now that, you know, they almost owe it to the thing to keep it going and to keep it and to keep it relevant. I think that's the thing about having guests and having content and stories and field trips.
And a big shout out to Todd McCormick for keeping it going the last couple of weeks.
Hell yeah, dude. Not only that, but bringing an incredible group of guests to the table constantly. Todd has always brought great people into Hash Church, so we gotta. I mean, shit, he brought you, Etienne.
Without a doubt. I mean, nothing but love and respect. I mean, you've brought so many great people to this discussion, Todd, and, you know, can't thank you enough for not only the continuance, but even in the times when it was very difficult, you definitely kept the torch going. So much respect.
Well, thanks. You know, I see it as a really good soapbox to the community where we can help one another grow by basically informing one another of what we know. I mean, me and Mark met really in Positronics, being able to sit down and talk about experiences in a neutral place where we weren't afraid of, you know, people looking over our shoulder and overhearing our conversation and turning us in or something. And that was a beautiful experience. And I think that's what I, you know, at least in my perspective, what I've tried to continue. You know, I don't for a minute think that, you know, I don't want to say this, you know, Scaldone to bum you out, but, you know, we're not famous. We're no Fish. This is really just a community service thing. And my vibe to Mark was, you know, do it as long as it feels really good to you. And, you know, that's when it'll be its best. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to do cannabis shows right now that are getting no traction. And, you know, I think part of the beauty in this is that it takes years to produce a movie or a documentary or, you know, anything, but it takes Mark 5 minutes to put this together and give us 3 hours of, you know, maybe difficult quality at times, but it's unobtainable production in the way that it's instant, it's happening. We're in multiple continents right now having this conversation, and I think that's magic. And I'm really glad Mark started this, and I've said that to him from the beginning, and I'll continue to be, you know, Mark's cheerleader in this. And I think that getting more people involved is the best thing to do. I think turning it into a little more of a, you know, dare I say, professionally polished conversation wouldn't hurt the conversation, because the reason I come back is because I learned stuff from every one of you. You know, I love that. I can sit down. It's like a virtual coffee shop where I can sit here and we can have conversation, and it's fantastic. And I love that you all show up on Sunday mornings, and I think it's great that the audience shows up too. The community is really what this is all about to me, and I think that, you know, I'm really glad that this is doing what it's doing. I hope to see it continue, but I want to, you know, give a shout out to everyone that was inspired by Mark and Bubble Man's World, who have created channels and started to share their content. Subcool's one of them. I mean, before I ever met Subcool, I saw his videos and I got his vibe and I could see where he was coming from. And you know, the fact that he was openly sharing was, to me, what endeared, you know, you to me, in a sense, Subcool, because I was a medical patient, and, you know, you talk about your situation, and you know, not seeing your dogs get kicked in and not seeing you get ripped off by the cops or hemmed up in a case was what inspired a lot of us, or others, to go try to do the stuff they saw you talking about. And that, to me, is fucking dynamite in this industry, because that inspiration is really what will be the catalyst for a lot of people to follow in our footsteps, and hopefully not, like me, be prosecuted 4 or 5 fucking times for growing flowers. So, you know,
Todd, that's
hats
kind of
off to you all.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you said that, Todd, because, you know, I followed your journey through life back in the day, and you inspired me. I mean, the way you stood up to the establishment and got in their face and said, fuck you, and got put in jail over and over and dealt with this shit. Don't think that wasn't inspirational to me. You know, I felt like they were picking on one of my friends, so I decided to take action.
You know what? It was worth it too. You know, it was worth every minute I spent in jail. Fuck them. We were right. We're still right. And that's why I show up, I wake up, and I actually do this, because I think that sharing is the key element here. And Jack Harris shared his knowledge and passion for cannabis with so many of us and sparked us in such a way. And I am glad I had even 1/100th of a bit of inspiration towards what you ended up doing, and the way you are reaching out and getting seeds out and getting the word out and sharing your experience, because being bold is the best part of this. And you know, that I'm really glad to hear that that's what happened. I mean, I've gotten a lot of feedback from the 20 fucking plus years I've been pushing this, and I think that's what's great. That's what kept me going in a way, is thinking that other people was learning from my mistakes, if you will, and not having to go through it themselves. And, you know, maybe politicians and others were stopping and thinking, what if my kid had cancer? Would I want the kid in jail, or would I want the kid, you know, healthy and happy and, you know, whole? So I think that's what we're all here. We're all here trying to share that gift that we've been given, which is kind of life. I think I was given the gift of life through cannabis, and that's not a small gift. And I think a lot of people tuning in also feel that way. So cheers to cannabis.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I just jumped in to say, preaching the words, guys. Great listening to you. Yeah, awesome. Peace.
All right, well, I was going to finish it with another spark of inspiration, a guy that I got to meet when I was in Kingston, Jamaica, Bob's birthday, a guy that first inspired me when I saw him singing in Barbados. He's a reggae artist. He's pretty sweet. He sings some nice lyrics with his little kids. He's got his little daughter. She's like 12 or 13 months old, and his little 2 or 3-year-old son, and they're both with him singing. And so I was going to finish it off with a video from Justice. So I'll try to get the screen sharing going on here and see if it works. Let's hope for the best here. Let's hope for the best. All right, here we go. Justice.
Make it full screen now.
Yeah, okay. Does this work?
Perfect. Now turn up the volume. Or unplug your headphones so we can hear the music.
Man shout out, hey, oh. Shout, hey,
There we go.
oh. I'm a beer, cannabis smoke, I don't know you want to. I'm a beer, cannabis smoke, I don't know you want. And let me hear you shout, whoa, yes. Shout, whoa, yes. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. So well, now we wanna eat, never do. Nobody know I'm a sick. I detect them up in the hospital and they come to see some marijuana. No way, never kill nobody. Alcohol and them dirty cigarette. Them a sell up in them shop and them supermarket. Them a meet them a arrest and give one shot in a chest dusty. Smoking and selling the high grade chest dusty. Shipping up and in the high grade chest. So all the ganja man and ganja woman are out there. And me not say marijuana it is good and it is sick. If you put the little babies at the end of the place, flash up on the light and the air and shout out, hey, oh, shout, hey, oh. Cannabis smoke, I don't know you are so. I'm a beer cannabis smoke, I don't know you are. And let me hear you shout, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. So well, Babylon, pan cannabis and be a lie. Them a tell about you smoking. If they can love your brain, tell about some people the crack and the juices. Marijuana, the top many uses. And for millions that get before Babylon exists. People all over the world that I use cannabis to do a kind of natural and spiritual thing like you're meditating and meditating. So all the ganja man and ganja woman in the land, and me no say marijuana it is good for everyone. Just roll up a big spliff and not see Babylon and light it up, put up on a one man shout out, hey oh, shout hey oh. Cannabis smoke, I don't know you what you. I'm a beer cannabis smoke, I don't know you what. And then hear you shout, oh yes, oh yes, shout, oh yes. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. I'm not take no crack and walking all day. They don't know say we not take no crack and walking and I smoke no cigarette. Fire! Watch it.
So, yeah, that's just inspiring. I think Justice is awesome. I'm going to end it on that note. Justice Binow from Barbados. You're the coolest dude, man. And thank you, everyone, for watching Hash Church this week. We'll be back next week. Peace out, everybody.